Good morning and welcome back to Diving Deep here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we are going to be starting our deep dive into Mechwarrior the Battletech role-playing game. I am your host, Brian, and I'm joined today by... Introduce yourself.
MaxLiao, that's right. The Chancellor of the Capellan Confederation is here. I'm just not Chinese enough. Xixing Liao. Anyway, no, MaxLiao from Legion of Myth, and this is going to be fun. I cannot wait to look into this because I have absolutely no memory of this game. No, let me rephrase that. I remember when I was like 14, 15 years old, we tried to play it, and then we didn't.
Well, you got farther than I did, so there's that.
Oh, I made plenty of characters for the game. I had a whole folder full of characters.
I don't think I got to making characters for the game. I know I had it. I know I have a copy of the book somewhere. I couldn't tell you where it is now.
Maybe I have yours because I have 2 copies.
No, you didn't steal my copy, but no, it's it is one that I've had my issues. We were talking about them a little bit at the beginning. We'll get into it as we get into the show. But it is one where I think, just the fact that it's kind of this legacy game that has been around for years kind of has an interesting reputation. I just think it'll be fun to go through it regardless. So
well, I can't wait to remember or relearn things for this. And what that wasn't so bad. Or, oh God, yeah, that's why we didn't.
Well, and especially since, I mean, I think they're currently on what you would call 4th edition.
I think it's 5th, isn't it? Because they had this one, then they had Mechwarrior 2nd edition, then they had that 3rd edition one that had the life paths and all this stuff. Then they had a Time of
War.
Yeah, and then they're on Destiny.
So Destiny, though, is not what I would call 5th edition.
Oh, okay.
Because that's more like, I would consider that more along the lines of, say, Savage Rifts as opposed to regular Rifts.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, because it's a different system. It's based on Shadowrun Anarchy, so it's supposed to be the streamlined system, as opposed to a different edition. So, anyways, regardless, it's one of those. It's been around forever, and so I just think it'll be fun to see where it came from. So, anyhow, anything else fun or exciting we should tell everyone about?
The Capellan Confederation gets totally screwed because the authors hate the good guys, and we're going to find out more and more about that. Who came up with all the peace accords? Alicia Liao. Who actually supported Kerensky? Barbara Liao. And who gets stomped on the face for that?
Sun Tzu Liao. No.
Well, it was a lot of Liaos going down the line there. Let's be honest. Most of them were mad weirdos, but I picked the 2. I cherry picked. I'm not going to lie.
I don't know, Law Dog. What did happen? I'm very confused.
Uh-oh, YouTube died. Well, I still see you connected, so.
I'm still getting you.
See, you know what happened was they don't like to see again, always muting the Capellan Confederation.
Yeah, I'm getting an.
Malachi says keep refreshing, so I guess he still sees us.
Let's see here.
It's not on your end, dude, or our end, or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just seeing if I can pull it up on my phone.
All right, I'll sing for the folks then. Do 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 do.
Yeah, I mean, it's showing live. I can see myself reacting. So, okay, since I am the king of, squirrel brain, I literally watched a couple episodes of The Muppet Show the other day. That is, I don't want to say it doesn't hold up, but it is absolutely a product of its time.
Oh, it ages wonderfully. It's just people are too sensitive now. Kids watch that show, and nowadays people are like, oh,
no.
there's innuendo. There's innuendo on that show.
Oh, no, there's a lot of innuendo on that show. No, I'm just talking crap, I can't remember her name. She was like the last crap, what is her name? Redhead comedian.
Bette Midler?
No. Super hilarious. Not
then.
Not the lady that did Mama's Family, but she actually was responsible for creating it.
Not Carol Burnett.
Yeah, no, Carol Burnett.
Was it Carol Burnett? Okay.
Yeah, Carol Burnett. She was the last one on there, and that was the last episode. Oh my gosh, that was. Anyways, just brilliant comedy. Anyways, all right. Sorry about that, folks.
And there's your Mechwarrior history for you.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Look, the channel's called Gaming with ADHD for a reason.
And I'm here streaming with ADHD.
All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Unfortunately, folks, I don't have fancy transitions like Max does, and being able to cut and paste through everything, make it look pretty. But here we are. All right, actually, real quick, I want to show this off. This is a great cover. This pulls you in. What are you doing? You're a pilot. You're blowing stuff up. First person view. I think they actually did really well at just setting the stage with this cover.
Mm-hmm.
Then other thing I wanted to point out, this is the table of contents. Even with appendices, extra fluff and stuff, we're still only dealing with just over 100 pages of content. This book is tiny compared to so many of the newer books. So,
and let's be honest, half of it's equipment.
Yeah, it's equipment. It's a lot of history. How it this whole section on the economy, how that works in the BattleTech universe. There's a lot of good information that they've managed to just cram into a tiny amount of pages. So, anyways, I just found that kind of interesting. But all right, we are going to cover the history of BattleTech. We're going to do it in the style that you've come to know on the Gaming with ADHD deep dives, where we'll go kind of back and forth, take a couple paragraphs at a time, and then talk about what we're reading. But I do want to go over the history, mostly because it's kind of covering the whole the game's 40 years old now. So what did they think the future was going to be, back then? And as I was reading through it, I just think it's an interesting comparison to where we're at now. So let's see how accurate it gets. All right. Prelude, 2001 to 2100. At the beginning of the 21st century, life on Terra had not changed much from what it had been at the close of the 20th century. The two giant superpowers still opposed one another, but now their tangled web of weaponry stretched outward into space. By the end of the 21st century, however, the Terran people stood poised in apparent unity on the brink of their first expansion into the stars. The events that made these sweeping changes possible were both political and technological. Politically, the new age of man began in 2011 to 2014. So apparently the new age started 10 years ago.
Well, it's instead of 1992, was it, when Russia actually had its civil war?
Right, yes. So far, BattleTech's about 20 years late. With a bloody civil war within the Soviet Union that tore the nation permanently asunder. When the Soviet unrest brought the rest of the planet to the brink of nuclear war, a joint force of North American and Western European troops intervened to end the hostilities. This outcome greatly strengthened political ties between the nations of the Western Alliance, resulting in a formal unification of Western military forces. By 2024, the Western Alliance included Japan, the newly liberated Eastern European nations, and the now separate 7 Russian states. The Alliance Parliament had replaced the defunct United Nations as a world forum. As a vigorous sponsor of scientific research and space exploration activities, the Alliance rewarded handsomely similar efforts by its member states. As the economic benefits of the Alliance membership became obvious, nation after nation petitioned the Parliament for membership status. By 2086, it had become the Terran Alliance, encompassing more than 120 member states. A complex formula based on date of entry, wealth, population, and military power determined each member's voting strength in Parliament. All right. Kind of interesting. The fact that, like, it very much is a, how is World War III supposed to pan out?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
what's interesting to me is if you look in here, the Western Alliance, whatever, but if you look at the Eastern side, let's see, Russia did fall apart. The Soviet Union, not Russia, fell apart, right? Eastern Bloc nations are actually our allies now. So part of this, I wouldn't say is prophetic, but it is at least interestingly true.
It's close enough for government work.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. I resemble that remark.
You are that remark. No, but I do think that's a good way to put it. Is that it is very close. I think Poland's in NATO now. Ukraine. Everybody keeps trying to push Ukraine into it.
Finland.
A lot of the other Baltic countries are interested. So this is sort of what happened, just a little earlier than they predicted. All right, go ahead and take the next bit.
Where are we? As the economic?
No, the 21st century.
There we go. The 21st century was an age of unsurpassed scientific innovation, most notably the development of fusion power as a major energy source. Lies! Alliance scientists built the first full-scale fusion reactor in 2020.
5 years late.
Jerks. We don't get it, of course. It's technocracy. They have it all. And sent the first fusion-powered spacecraft from Earth to Mars in 2027. Go Musk! The voyage took only 2 weeks, a fraction of the 5 months it had previously required. Because of the fusion power plant's extreme efficiency, space vessels could maintain higher acceleration burns for longer periods. The development of efficient fusion drives made possible the first widespread exploration and exploitation of the solar system. By 2050, the Alliance had scientific outposts throughout the Sol system, had dispatched unmanned interstellar probes to several nearby stars, and had discovered habitable worlds around Tau Ceti, Epsilon Eridani, and Epsilon Indi. In the second half of the century, private multinational corporations also began to participate in spacefaring activity, establishing mining colonies in the asteroid belt and even here transporting entire asteroids from the belt to the Earth-Moon system. These corporations also engaged in technological research that resulted in breakthroughs such as the development of new, dense, like me, but lightweight materials for spacecraft and space station construction, and a variety of small portable fusion reactors for equipment use. Not all the breakthrough research of the 21st century took immediate effect, however, fusion engines. Working together at Stanford University, America's Thomas Kearney and Japan's Takayoshi Fushida published a series of papers from 2018 to 2021 that attacked the theoretical underpinnings of modern physics. What jerks. The scientific community ridiculed their work. Both men died in obscurity before the century was half over. 40 years later, medical prosthetics research led to the development of, polyacetine fibers called myometers. Under the influence of electricity, bundles of these fibers would contract strongly like muscles. Unfortunately, the minimum bundle length required for the process was far longer than any human limb. What could we make from that? Thus, this line of research would lie abandoned for nearly all of the next 3 centuries. Poor Kearney Fushida. Those poor guys.
right, and that's kind of the funny thing. It's like, okay, there is a lot of heavy lifting going on, you know, in the next 50 years. I am actually somewhat curious because a lot of it's close. You know, Elon Musk's Starship,
Mhm.
theoretically getting, you know, something to Mars, you know, within the next couple of years. You know,
Well, I
it's
mean, I think in some regard, I mean, most game designers aren't completely stupid. At least those who, especially back in the day, did a lot of research. You know, like Kevin Simbita, Jordan Weissman. I'm sure Randall Bills and all of them as well, for these different games. Hell, Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax for the purposes of their games. Doesn't mean everything's perfect, but they did a lot of research to come up with these ideas. I don't think that all of this that they're talking about, sure, it didn't come to fruition necessarily, but isn't, oh my God, revolutionary. How did somebody think about that? I think we're on course for a lot of this stuff. Just, I mean, let's be honest, we've been talking about fusion stuff for how long, and they still can't get it to work.
oh sure, it is kind of interesting just because of the fact that the like dealing with futurism,
Mm-hmm.
there like you have to extrapolate on what is theoretically possible while still putting in a little bit of the fantastical. Like,
Yep.
okay, this would be cool. We don't know how we'll get there, but
Well,
maybe.
I mean, I'm going to ruin your video right now and just tell people that under no scientific circumstance ever is a two-legged walking mech something that anybody wants to build. It just, in the real world, unfortunately, it's just not, I don't want to say viable, but there's so many better designs. But they're not, but they're cool and we want them. So we
Yeah.
want our walking. Gimme.
I see, that's the thing. I think there is enough um demand for the fantastical that somebody's going to do it. You know, I
Sure,
like
but there's a fantastical versus practical. I guess my point that I'm saying here is we love it for the game, and this is why the history for the game doesn't have to be perfect. It's just fun to know how we got from 2001 to eventually, well, for this game 3025. You know how we bridge those gaps and what they're estimating, and sure, some of it's ridiculous. I hate to say it, but some of it is ridiculous. As we've discovered more and more exoplanets, and we're like, oh, there's actually nothing around Epsilon or Indy or nothing habitable. Who cares? This stuff is great. That fantastical is why we're here to play the game.
no, I agree completely. So all right, let's keep going. Exodus 2102-2313. In 2002, scientists announced the scientific breakthrough of the last 2 centuries, the theoretical prototype faster than light starship. Their work was based on the once researches of Kearney and Fukushima. The Terran Parliament raised a crash program, the project, to develop an FTL drive. Although the Demos project culminated in the maiden voyage of FTL ship to Tau Ceti 108, the billions created resentment and even rioting in some of the poor member states. This apparent unity of Terra was never completely repaired, and the struggle between haves and have not continue to plague the Alliance. Shortly afterward, Alliance began producing FTL drive ships. By 2116, the first space colony was established on 4 New Earth. As engineering improvements reduced the cost of building FTL ships, corporations and even dissident private began to acquire their own vessels to exploit the seemingly limitless potential of the stars. The Terran Parliament soon acted to place the colonization process under its sole authority, passing laws that all colony ships have a Terran naval escort and let all colonies under Terran jurisdiction in the form of an alliance governor. In 172, the first Alliance Grand Survey reported the existence of more than 100 settled human colonies spread across a sphere 80 light years in diameter. The fourth survey, concluded in 2235, recorded the settlement of a total of more than 600 worlds.
Just amazing how all these worlds are just Earth-like.
Yeah.
And no aliens. Shut up with the stupid bird people.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I do think is kind of funny that, like, okay, they opted for no aliens, but A, they did the bird people, and B, there are also things like, you know, like dragons and creatures and, you know, other animals that did evolve, but still no aliens.
Yeah, but I think the human experience is compelling enough where
Oh, sure.
we don't need all that. It's actually one of the things that I really loved about BattleTech back in the day when I was playing this. A lot of BattleTech. We had both the BattleTech and the Robotech crowd. I played both. My preference was always BattleTech because it felt more quote unquote real. It's something I could relate to better. And so I actually like the fact that there weren't aliens in there and that the mechs were more like walking tanks and not ninja robots and so forth.
Oh yeah, and it definitely makes it a different feel where you're just dealing with how do people react as opposed to trying to come up with these alien races and how do we have to interact with them. So anyways, all right, you take the next couple because I also realized I should probably share this a couple more places. So
okay, sounds good.
I'm going to do that while you read.
As more and more planets were settled, Terran colonists continually met the problem of impure water supplies that were suitable neither for human consumption nor for irrigation. As the costs of water purification equipment were prohibitive, especially for colony worlds, the lack of water tended to discourage new exploration of worlds. In 2177, however, entrepreneur Rudolph Ryan, patented a process for transforming interplanetary tankers into FTL-driven ice ships, able to transport huge icebergs quickly across interstellar space. Didn't they do that in Futurama? Every year they had to get a bigger and bigger iceberg to cool the planet off. Within a few short years, the Ryan Cartel, gotta love the name Cartel, became the single most profitable enterprise within the Alliance, and its ice ships stimulated the colonization of many worlds previously believed only marginally habitable. With each expansion of the human sphere, the time needed to transmit messages to and from Terra also increased, making it difficult for Parliament to administer colony worlds directly. This forced the Alliance to delegate more authority to its appointed governors, who in turn had to grant extensive home rule authority to colonists. When a coalition of colonies along the outer reaches of space declared its independence in 2236, the Alliance learned only after a bitter 18-month battle that it lacked both the military resources and the political support needed to crush the rebellion. But that whole paragraph just spoke Star Wars to me.
It really did.
The loss of these rebel worlds, you rebel scum, set off a political crisis within the Alliance that ultimately resulted in a vote of no confidence against the ruling expansionist party. Upon taking power, the new liberal government withdrew Terran troops and administrators from all frontier worlds, granting the colonies independence whether they wanted it or not. You know, sometimes being free, you can be too free, and you're like, how are we going to eat? What's going to happen now? This isolationist policy soon proved to be just as unpopular as expansionism because of the resulting political turmoil and economic upheaval. By 2242, the boundary of Alliance holdings was no more than a single FTL jump of 30 light-years from Sol. For the next 70 years, neither major Terran party was able to establish parliamentary control, and their respective regimes frequently rose and fell. To escape the constant political unrest and economic hard times, many of Earth's best and brightest migrated during the latter half of the 23rd century, like the amazing Franco Liao. Check him out, history's greatest man. To the now independent colonies. Later historians dubbed this period the Exodus. During this time, Terrans colonized more than 1,500 new planets, extending the borders of the human sphere to more than 150 light-years from Sol. As more and more of Terra's resources were devoted to colonization, scientific research lagged. What? Doesn't make any sense. On the newly settled planets, the colonists were too pressed with the problems of survival to think much about developing new technology. Time out. Time out.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I love, and I got to say this up front. This is what I love about BattleTech. Sometimes it turns history on its head, or reality, so to speak. Necessity is the mother of invention. There's a reason why that saying exists, right? In wartime, our technology levels go up, not down. But for some reason in the BattleTech universe, everything that normally makes technology go up makes it go down.
Yeah, I've struggled with that recently as well. Because it doesn't make a whole lot of
but I love it. I have to say that I love it, and I'm happy it's that way.
Well, it sets a tone.
Yes.
that they're going for. They're trying. It's creating a high tech post apocalypse.
Yeah, I agree.
So
And for all the Battletech fans who listen to this stuff later, I'm a 3025 era purist. I don't like clans. I don't like 3050. I don't like the jihad or all that nonsense. I don't even pay attention. I don't even pay attention to Battletech anymore. I am absolutely a 3025 era purist. That is where the game is meant to be played. Because it doesn't have all that crazy technology that came in later. That's just, most of it's nonsense.
Max is wrong, everyone.
That's why I'm wearing the Capellan hat.
No, but that again, we're kind of jumping all over the place, but I think that is also one of the strengths about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a 3025 purist, there's
absolutely
nothing stopping for you from being a 3025 purist.
Well, I guess my point in that, because I was thinking in my head, was the fact that they kind of corrected that, I don't want to call it mistake, but that trope of that war makes technology go down after or with the Fourth Succession War, right? And I know we're jumping way ahead, even beyond this book at this point, but as the more modern game came out, war actually did increase technology. You got more innovation once they got the Helm Core, the Helm Core, and Nuva Avalon Institute of Science, kind of put it out there. Then all of a sudden they started learning how to retrofit clan mechs eventually, and yada yada yada. But up through what I consider the pure part of the game, there's just look. You got Space Bushido, you've got Space America, you've got all these tropes that make the game beautiful.
Right. No, exactly. But there are good arguments to make for it being possible to happen this way. The fact that Kerensky takes off and takes, quote unquote, most of the tech.
80%, yep.
Yeah. So takes the scientists, takes the technology, takes the quote unquote most of the army, because it's like I'm going to make this example and you can tell me if I'm on the right path or not, but it's like saying, okay, the US government falls apart and the US military decides to bounce. And then all of the houses are left with their National Guard forces.
Mm-hmm.
And then they literally
just go not only that, but they also don't like their neighbors.
Right, exactly. They don't like their neighbors. They only have their National Guard forces, so they don't have all of the technology, all of the manufacturing facilities, etc. And then especially because Battletech is sort of a space medieval situation. I mean, your travel times, it takes a month to get 100 light years. It takes even communication, and we'll get to that later. Communication, while fast, is not instantaneous,
right?
Across the galaxy. So somebody could go and destroy a manufacturing site, and then nobody knows about it for a couple of months, and then at that point, do we rebuild it?
Yeah, but let's be honest. Even if it was broken into all National Guard here, we don't have all of our cookies in one basket, so to speak. So if we were to take out a couple of manufacturing centers, they just rebuild another one. And the example that I'll use for this one is just look at the Soviet Union in World War II. Literally just took all their stuff down. It took them a couple of years, brought it to Siberia, and built it back up bolt by bolt.
Sure. Yeah, no. I'm just saying there are ways that you could make the argument in the fact that communication is slow, travel time is slow. So by the time you get there and try to actually fix the situation, it's probably better.
I make all those excuses as well because I love Battletech. And yes, if Nerdsherd wants to say I only love 3% of Battletech, that's fine. I only love 3% of Battletech, but it's the original 3%. So the original is always better than the copies and doppelgangers that come afterwards. So.
But we'll get into that another day.
Yes.
All right. Consolidation, 2314 to 2398. The Terran Alliance ultimately collapsed beneath the weight of its own discontent in September 2314. When a short, vicious war broke out between rival expansionist and liberal factions, Fleet Admiral James McKenna intervened with Alliance military forces to halt the conflict. McKenna was a proud, charismatic career officer with a spotless military record and a long family heritage of service to the Terran Alliance and the Western Alliance before it. He was the archetypical hero appearing at a critical juncture and turning the tide of history in a new direction. McKenna's desire was to restore his native Terra to its former proud position as leader and progenitor of Homo Stellaris. After dissolving the Alliance, he declared himself ruler of a new state, the Terran hegemony. Under his leadership, the hegemony embarked on an active and successful campaign to restore Terran political control over its former colonies. At the time of McKenna's death in 2339, the hegemony had used military, political, and economic means to reassert authority over more than 100 worlds. In 2340, Michael Cameron, McKenna's nephew, was elected to succeed his uncle as Director General. During Cameron's term of office, the hegemony engaged in an ambitious government-sponsored research effort. The first significant product of these efforts was the development of a prototype workmech, a fusion-powered mining vehicle that produced body movements through artificial muscle structure based on myomer technology and developed in the 21st century. The reemergence of Terra as both a political and scientific force created a new era of detent and relatively peaceful development for the whole human sphere. Starting with the Crucis Pact of 2317, a number of mutual defense leagues and trade agreements were signed among worlds. Although most of these agreements granted member worlds total sovereignty over internal matters, they also allowed more developed colonies to control poorer, younger neighbors. By the time the hegemony and other states of the human sphere undertook the Grand Survey of 2389, 10 separate states with strong central governments had emerged, each controlling worlds within communications range of their capitals. There were frequent disputes over border worlds, however, especially those with ample water or mineral resources. This tended to make the boundaries of the various states a matter of tension or even war. As confrontations over these planets grew more frequent, an arms race followed, further exacerbating tensions throughout the sphere. Though the other member states tried to follow the lead of the hegemony in supporting new research activities, low population density hampered their efforts. In one other respect, however, the colonial states mirrored the hegemony absolutely: the evolution of a hereditary leadership embodied in a single ruling family. Commenting on this, social historians have argued that the dynastic form of rule probably offered a comforting reassurance after the chaos of the Exodus years. All right. Obviously, we're just dealing with more history, but one thing I do think is kind of interesting is I think the writing is so much better in this book than in a lot of newer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They use a lot more $4 words.
Well, also, it's believe it or not, even though this is lore and this would fall under creative writing, they write, as somebody who is a technical writer, they write with a technical mindset. Clear, concise, consistent, and accurate. It's got more fluff in there than you would find in just a technical, but you get what I'm saying, because they have to pack in this entire history into this amount of space, but still have it somewhat interesting for you to keep reading it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's a dramatic shift compared to a lot of the books that we see more modern stuff do. So
on a completely different topic, because I want to derail your stream. Is it hegemony or hegemony? Because I used to pronounce it hegemony, and then I had somebody chew me out like I was a little child and say the words properly. Of course, he was British, but it's hegemony. And I'm like, so I was forced to change how I say that word. I'd like to know what people in chat say. It's both? Is it hegemony? Because I used to pronounce it that way. That's actually more natural for me. But now you're going to hear me read differently than him if it comes up, because I'm going to say hegemony because I got it beat into me.
I have no idea.
Okay. I'm saying, when you said it that way, the first thing was like, that sounds natural, but wrong. Oh my God, they're going to jump out of the ceiling and hurt me.
Nerd says hegemony. So,
okay.
And that's one thing that I have found doing the Wikipedia channel is there is a lot of words that I end up having to read that I am going to make my best guess on how this Thai word is said. Sure.
Well, if a nerd's nerd says it's a hegemony, and I prefer to say it that way anyway, I'm going back the way I used to say it, and I'm not even going to blame a Minnesota accent.
Her autism is strong, so I would trust it.
She's also not stupid, so,
I mean, come on, she's a Marine. Let's not go too far.
She was. I mean, I know once a Marine, always a Marine, but you know what? The smart ones know how to get out.
But also...
Well, it's also Battletech.
No, Battletech.
Fair enough. Great, now I'm confused. How do I pronounce it? I'm going to go consistent with the stream, unless I revert, but it's going to be hegemony.
All right, I realize it's the middle of the stream, but I'll tell you what I told Seraphis. You know what? Just roll with it. If that's how you want to say it, I'm not going to be upset. Yeah.
Well, where she might be autistic, as you say, I'm pedantic, and I want to do it right. There's a right way and there's a wrong way, and I don't want to be the one that does it the wrong way.
That's fair. And folks, don't forget to vote for which way you want it to go by hitting the like button.
There you go. Don't hit it twice.
Don't hit it twice. All right, tell us about the Age of War.
All right, the Age of War. In 2398, a territorial dispute between the glorious and wonderful Capellan Confederation and those moronic freeworlders erupted into a shooting war, as both ground and naval forces clashed in the Andurian system. Do they have blue skin there too? This conflict was only the first of a dozen extremely bloody, limited wars between 2398 and 2412 over ownership of key frontier worlds that obviously belonged to the Capellan Confederation. The first such war in over a century. A new era of bloody conflict had begun. No, the freeworlders don't have blood. In 2412, after a fierce battle in the Tintavel system resulted in thousands of civilian casualties, representatives of all 10 states met on New Olympia to sign the Ares Conventions. Who promoted that? That's right, MaxLiao. Just remember that.
After she nuked the freeworlders, she said maybe we shouldn't do that.
If you want to rewrite history, you can.
Look, how we got
fake
there,
news,
just
deep fake videos all over the place, even in the future. These were a remarkably chivalric set of interstellar laws governing the conduct of war. Instead of attempting to prevent war, the states of the human sphere sought a way to legitimize its conduct, banning it in heavily populated areas and prohibiting military disruption of civilian economies. Yeah, that worked out. As a result of the Ares Conventions, war became almost a continuous fact of life in the 25th century. Oops. It was transformed, however, from being an awesomely destructive event. War were now a curious, stylized, feint and counterfeit in which outmaneuvered forces often surrendered rather than fight unfavorable odds. Compliance with the conventions was almost universal. Almost. Drastically reducing the human and economic costs of war. Unfortunately, it also promoted war as a means of resolving even the most minor disputes. Let's not talk about what the Fedrats did during this time. Throughout the next century and a half, the states of the human sphere fought hundreds of little wars among themselves. However, these battles were inconclusive. None of the 10 states was able to form either permanent, lasting alliances with one another, or to establish long-term supremacy over its neighbors. Nevertheless, the hereditary governments of these states survived the years of violence surprisingly intact. The one exception was the Rift Republic. See, we don't even know who that is.
But we will.
Oh, we will. In 2482, High Counselor Terrence Amaris. Oh, God. I keep forgetting how these names, for some reason, always just float through time. It's never somebody new. It's always the same names. I love Battletech, man. I love it because of this stuff. I haven't read this probably in 40 years since it came out. But
real quick. So what's the historical reference for Amaris?
Oh, Stefan Amaris was the one that actually overthrew the Star. Well, yeah, overthrew the Star League.
No, I know that. No, I okay, sorry. I thought you were saying that there was like some.
Well, it's just the fact that you got an Amaris here. You had a Cameron already. You've got all the names that are going to Ryan from Red Jack Ryan. You're going to see all these names again in the future. Even if they're Bandit Kings, you're going to see all these names again in the future. It's like, wow, the same family for 800 years, over and over and over again.
I thought you were implying that Amaris was like an old Roman name, and like that was
Oh
the
no
name.
no 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 no.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of the situations. Yeah, all these names will pop up again in I guess 600 years from this date.
Kind of
So
hard to have dynastic families if you don't keep the name going.
does every single family in all of human history have to be dynastic now? And how many did the Habsburgs last 600 years? No, they were too inbred.
I mean, well, that's fair, but anyway,
Anyway, yeah, where am I here? The one exception was the Rift Republic. In 2482, High Counselor Terence Amaris ousted the ruling Durant family from power in a swift, well-timed coup, and then executed the surviving members of the Durant family on trumped-up charges of high treason and conspiracy. Period inside the quotes. Despite this barbarism, Amaris succeeded in consolidating her hold over the Republic, whose name was changed to the Rimworld's Republic. With her daughter's succession as first citizen in 2517, a new hereditary line was begun and soon acquired the legitimacy of any other ruling house. The Terran hegemony was remarkably Pacific. Pacific? Pacific. Is that a word?
I mean, I'm going to say yes.
Isn't it supposed to be pacifistic? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Hey, maybe in the 1980s we used different words and I just don't remember. But I'm going to read it as it says here. The Terran hegemony was remarkably pacific during the Age of War, fighting only 2 major engagements. In 2431, it seized the Kantari system from the Federated Suns, and in 2477, it crushed the Free Worlds League invasion force at Oriente. The hegemony's success in avoiding conflict during this period was primarily due to its military superiority based on the invention of the Battletech in 2439, derived from mining mechs of the 21st century and using the same Myanmar technology to power their movement. What's up?
I was coughing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said something. Terra's battle mechs soon demonstrated greater mobility and adaptability to environments than conventional armored vehicles. They were also more heavily armored with a full array of conventional and energy weapons. Though the other states quickly obtained mech technology after Lyran Commonwealth Commando raid on Terran mech production facility Hesperus II in 2455, Terra was able to maintain superiority in the field, evolving new and better designs with more mobility and weaponry at lower cost with higher efficiency. The hegemony remarkably Pacific in his dealings with fellow states began to assume the role of mediator before the 25th century drew to a close.
All right. Pacific, adjective, tending to make or preserve peace.
Okay.
Not warlike, at peace, calm or tranquil.
Interesting. I've just never heard it used in that. I've heard of pacifistic, but I've never heard of Pacific. I actually like Pacific better. 1, it's a big ocean. 2, it's a shorter word. I like it. I don't have to have real reasons. Those reasons are good enough.
I just like that. Big ocean, little word. No. Yes. All right. We're just burning through history at this point, folks. All right. Imperium and reunification, 2551 to 2600. A century and a half after the Age of War began, Terra's role as a mediator eventually brought it to an end through arbitration of a dispute between the houses Liao and Merrick over the planet Andurian. Ironically, the same 2 combatants had fought over this world 150 years earlier, initiating the Age of War. Did Ian Cameron, 13th Director General of the Hegemony, persuade the Appellant Confederation and the Free Worlds League to sign peace agreements, but he earned the friendship of Terence Liao, Albert Merrick.
Albert.
Eventually, the 3 states signed a secret trade and non-aggression pact. Between 2556 and 2569, Cameron used his mediator's skill to hammer out similar agreements with the Federated Suns, Draconis Combine, and Lyran Commonwealth, the other 3 states occupying the interior of the human sphere. In 2571, Cameron and the rulers of the other 5 states established a new unified hegemony called the Star League. In exchange for their recognition of Ian Cameron as First Lord of the Star League and arbiter of League foreign policy, the League articles granted each of the other 5 leaders a seat on the High Council, autonomy over all domestic policy matters, and official sanction of the existing line of succession. Most importantly, all now had free access to the Terran military research apparatus. In 2575, the Star League directed its attention to the states in the periphery beyond the borders of its inner sphere. These were the Outworlds Alliance, the Taurian Concordat, the Magistracy of Canopus, and the Rimworlds Republic. They remained beyond the Star League's jurisdiction, and their independence was based on tradition that was now 3 centuries old. After rejecting a softly worded ultimatum to join the League, these outer worlds formed their own military alliance instead. War followed inevitably, lasting 20 long years and claiming more soldier and civilian lives than the entire Age of War. The Unification War finally ended in 2597, following a bloody campaign in the Hades Star Cluster, the capital of the Taurian Concordat. With the end of the war, Star League launched a vast public relations campaign aimed at building popular support for membership in the Star League among the people of the periphery worlds. This effort was so successful that the League was able to withdraw most of its garrison troops before 10 years had elapsed.
All right, 1 second.
So I do think that's kind of interesting. I always kind of assumed the periphery states to always kind of be a little independent. I didn't realize they were part of the Star League. So
to a lesser degree, yes, they were, but to a lesser degree, Outworld's alignment. I mean, they're just a bunch of farmers, so it was kind of hard for them to
resist.
Yeah. The Magistracy and Taurian Concordat couldn't be more opposite. And the Taurians have always been a thorn like the Fedrat side. The Magistracy, I mean, that's a space Atlantic City or space Las Vegas, man. What happens in the Magistracy stays in the Magistracy. You know, it's like I actually personally, I got the Capellan hat on, but honestly, if I were to pick a faction, it would be the Magistracy of Canopus. But they're not a main house.
Cat people, folks. I said he likes cat people, folks.
Cat people.
Yeah, the like they do all sorts of crazy body mod out in the.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, hey, look, what happens out there stays out there, man. We're going on vacation and come back with some extra gifts. But all right. And talking about those extra gifts, let's talk about the good years. 150 good years, 2601 to 2750.
Ooh, 2750.
I'd say we all know what happens there, but I'm going to assume the viewer is watching this because he or she doesn't know. So we're going to tell you about the good years, and then he gets to screw it all up for you. During the 150 years following the Unification War, the far-flung territories of the Star League experienced a new wave of scientific innovation and colonial expansion. To reduce the administrative problems caused by lengthy interstellar communication lags, Starlink developed a vast, intricate network of communication relay stations employing FTL transmitters, known as hyperpulse generators. These transmitters were developed from technology based on Kearney-Fuchida hyperdrive principles. Research begun in 2615 came to fruition 15 years later. That wasn't government research then, because it had been 150 years later. HPG was essentially a large gun that fired an extremely high-frequency compressed pulse through KF space at a target world. The pulse traveled the immense distance instantaneously, just like a ship. So basically, it jumps. That pulse jumps from station to station. Though the energy cost for single transmission was the same magnitude as for a jump, the range of an HPG pulse was 180% to 200% as far as a maximum jump distance. How far would that be, Brian?
That would be about 50 to 60 light years.
Yep.
Which, that I actually thought was interesting. For some reason, I thought an HPG pulse could go farther. So I didn't realize that it was not, basically, as far as I'm concerned, that's basically the same as if you're actually just taking a ship. You just don't have the transit time to and from the jump ship.
There's a couple. You don't have the recharge time, so you can pop it from if it's on the command circuit. No, that was the jump ships. If it's on a priority circuit, it will go from this station to the next station, and then it can instantaneously be shot back out.
No, I get that. I'm just saying, before reading this, I had assumed that it would be like 300 light years.
See, and I'm on the opposite side of that. I thought it was the same as a jump ship. I forgot. So I thought it was 30 light years for everything. So,
all right, fair enough.
All right, when completed, the system effectively cut the average communication time between Terra and the periphery from over a year to less than 5 months. Communication time could be cut to days, but only at great cost, and that's through like what I was talking about. Remember, your stuff is being batched. When they wrote this book, modems were a thing. Okay, modems are still a thing. Well, we're talking 2400 baud modems were a thing. Okay, so communication was batched and then sent out.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's like, okay, we're gonna, planet A is gonna send a whole bunch to planet B, and then planet B is gonna divvy it up and send a bunch to planet C and a bunch to planet D and a bunch to planet E.
Yep.
Anyways, all right.
At the same time, League engineers developed a new low-cost water purification system. The system was significantly lower in energy consumption than water importation, making it economically feasible to settle inner-sphere worlds previously ignored during the Exodus. It also provided many settled worlds with an unexpected economic boon. However, the Ryan cartel, the great ice ship manufacturer and operator, suffered greatly from this new technology and was driven near bankruptcy as fewer and fewer worlds relied upon his services. By 2700, more than 750 new worlds had been settled. In a final important development, engineers working to improve battlemech mobility were able to develop an improved, more efficient Myanmar. This improvement finally made it possible to construct artificial bionic limbs of human size, as well as full-scale human exoskeletons of incredible strength to be used in industrial applications. Spurred by the adoption of a universal currency and the removal of the artificial trade barriers imposed by the Age of War, trade and commerce also boomed. As prosperity grew, the Star League worlds became increasingly interdependent. With development and transportation costs low, many planets develop highly specialized economies dependent on other worlds for basic commodities like food, water purifier equipment, and replacement parts. A little foreshadowing there. There was only one major political crisis during this age of plenty, although it was resolved fairly easily. In 2650, reports reached Terra that Tadeo Amaris, leader of the Rimworld's member state, was expanding his personal army at an alarming rate. Michael Cameron, recently succeeded to the title of First Lord of the Star League, convened a special meeting of the High Council, whom he persuaded to issue an edict restricting the size of household forces. To back up this administrative action, Cameron gave Amaris a warning by sending several regular army battlemech regiments to conduct extended maneuvers just beyond the boundary of the Rimworlds. Shortly after, League intelligence confirmed Amaris had disbanded his extra regiments, ending the crisis without a single hostile shot fired. Is that the Cuban Missile Crisis? I'm just wondering. The League's domestic affairs otherwise remained quiet for a full century. And you get the fun part. Ha ha.
I'm going to... That was the Cuban Missile Crisis. All right, speaking of crisis and Civil War, 2751 to 2784. In February 2751, Simon Cameron, the fifth first of the Star League, was accidentally killed during a mining colony inspection on New Silesia, leaving his 8th son, Richard, as sole heir. After deliberating for more than a month, the High Council elected Richard as First Lord and named Alexander Kerensky, the commander of the League regular army, as Richard's regent and protector. It soon became apparent, however, that the Council Lords perceived themselves as Star League's true authority. During the 10 years of Richard's regency, the Council passed 2 edicts that would have far-reaching consequences on the League's future. The first, an amendment to Michael Cameron's Edict of 2650, allowed each Lord to double the strength of his household force, thus initiating a period of general military buildup. The second granted each of the 6 member states ruled by Council Lords a greater share of League revenues, while boosting the tax assessments on the 6 territorial states. Not unsurprisingly, this second action provoked immediate unrest and rebellion in the territories, forcing Kerensky to strongly reinforce the regular army battlemechs garrison there. Upon Richard's full accession to the throne, his years of frustration with the actions of the council drove him to a disastrous act of defiance. In April of 2762, he issued Executive Order 156, ordering the complete disbandment of all household armies. Enraged, the Council Lords wasted no time striking down the order as unconstitutional, and eventually forced Cameron to rescind it. Only Stephen Amaris, ruler of the Rimworld state, supported Richard's initiative. After this incident, relations between the Council and the First Lord deteriorated further, because Richard refused to convene a council meeting for over 2 years. In the meantime, unrest in the territories also continued to escalate, drawing off more and more of the regular army's strength to the frontier. In 2764, Stefan Amaris signed a secret agreement with Richard, pledging to defend Terra in the event of trouble. When even more troops, including Cameron household units, were sent to the frontier following the secession of New Vandenberg and 17 other periphery worlds in April of 2765, the secret agreement seemed almost prophetic. I mean, Amaris wouldn't do anything wrong, would he?
No, he's such a good guy.
I mean, he's just looking out for his buddy Richard.
Yep. I mean, he know. Look, he gave up his army. He knew.
Yeah.
He knew it.
Exactly. I mean, when you know, you know. All right. By 2766, 3/4 of the regular army was engaged along the periphery. On Terra, troops borrowed from Stefan's household guard replaced the regular unit sent to New Vandenberg until they eventually outnumbered regular forces remaining on the planet. In late December of that same year, Amaris seized his chance, taking over Terra in a swift and bloody coup reminiscent of his ancestors. Amaris executed the First Lord and his family, as well as every other man, woman, and child with a drop of Cameron blood, and declared himself the new First Lord. News of this coup did not reach Kerensky until later in 2767, when Stefan's forces completed their takeover of the Terran member state and reopened communications contact with the outside world. Kerensky's immediate reaction was a declaration of war against the usurper. Both Amaris and Kerensky called on the council lords to aid their cause. One by one, however, each lord refused to commit to either side. Wow, see, they're not, like, they can't even pick a side.
Yeah, well, that's actually pretty sad. Let's be honest. For whatever they thought about the Camerons, this dude just came in and gunned down the Camerons' entire family and took over. And you're like, I don't know, maybe he's okay.
I mean, he had reasons. Yeah. Between 2768 to 2772, the two sides girded for war. Kerensky did so by stripping almost every League garrison and outpost of mechs, ships, and troops. Amaris proceeded to fortify the key SAR systems around Terra. The ensuing struggle lasted 7 grueling years, but Kerensky's forces inexorably advanced from world to world, finally liberating Earth itself in October of 2779. In January of 2780, Stefan the Usurper and the other adult members of his family were executed, and Kerensky reassumed the title of Protector. The Civil War was officially over, but the army's hard-fought victory appeared a hollow one. The war left nearly 100 million people dead. It had cut communications to the territorial states and had damaged severely the League's administrative machinery as well as its claim to unity. When the High Council reconvened on Terra in October 2780, matters grew progressively worse. The Council quickly removed Kerensky from his post as Protector, ordering him to disperse his regular army troops to create garrisons for the Terran member state worlds. The Council also appointed Jerome Blake as Minister of Communications, charging him with the restoration of the League's communications network, an effort that succeeded beyond the Lord's wildest intentions. See Comstar in the appendices. All efforts to select a new First Lord, however, failed utterly, with each of the 5 lords adamantly promoting his own candidacy for the post. In August 2781, the council dissolved without having appointed a new First Lord, and it was never to meet officially again. Upon returning home, each High Lord began actively to expand his personal retinue. Many remnants of Stefan's former regiments found new employment as mercenaries in this military buildup by the former council lords of the Star League. Soon, the lords were attempting to buy the services of regular army regiments as well. General Kerensky's efforts to persuade the lords to compromise fell on deaf ears, resulting in a call for the by-now aged Kerensky's resignation. Instead, he summoned the loyal elements of his officer corps to a secret meeting in February 2784. After this meeting, League quartermasters spent the next 6 months acquiring over 200 transports and other starships. Though the council lords became aware of this activity early on, they were too busy with their own grand schemes, and too unwilling to cooperate with one another, to attempt to stop Kerensky. In November, almost 3/4 of the regular army abandoned their posts en masse, rendezvousing with Kerensky at New Samarkand. The council lords mobilized, but to their shocked astonishment, the army's assembled armada jumped outward and disappeared into the vast reaches of the periphery. None have ever been seen again in the
And never
sphere.
will they be seen again.
I don't know. I think they're still out there somewhere.
Yeah, they're like Battlestar Galactica, man. There's some who believe that life here began out there.
Yeah.
All
No,
right.
I like that's the thing. I love these backgrounds. I think one of the strong parts here, like for me, like I know I've said it on other streams before. My biggest complaint about I'm just going to use Dungeons and Dragons is the fact that the player's handbook, you open it up and page 1, here we're going to make a character. Why? I don't care that, yes, there are, the Forgotten Realms campaign guide or the Dark Sun campaign guide. But in the one book you're telling me that I have to buy, you don't even have like a page telling me why I'm doing this.
So there are two schools of thought on that, probably more, but there are two main ones. The first one is it's a game rule book with fluff involved. So we're going to start off by having you prepare for the game, basically play the game. I've heard all types of arguments that combat rules should come before character creation so that I know how to play it before I make a character. I've heard I need to understand the world, like you're saying, need to understand the world before I play the game. For me, as long as it's consistent, I'm good with both. I don't care if the fluff comes first. I don't care if the character creation comes first, as long as they're coherent. Ultimately, though, and this is going to be like my devil's advocate to what you're saying is, this isn't a storybook. It's a reference book. So I don't care that everything isn't in order. I just care that it's where it belongs. Combat's with combat, mechs are with mechs, things like that. But yeah, this is a great setup to get into making your character, though.
Right, and I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. Because number one, the player's handbook doesn't have any fluff in it at all for Dungeons and Dragons. It's literally just, here's how you make characters. Here's like equipment, spells, yes, I get that it's a reference book. And it doesn't even have to be this long. This is about 8 pages of text to read through. But
how many viewers do you still have?
I have 3. I get it. That's fine. I knew what I was doing. But I think the game should at least give something.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a lot. Like
the World of Darkness books did a really good job of that, whether you like them or not. They did a really good job of that. So no, and by the way, this wasn't me busting Brian's balls there. This is the fact that when we do the same thing on my channel, we start reading these walls of text. People are like, I just see the viewership just.
No. I knew you weren't busting my balls. That's fine. I'm not worried about that at all. I'm just bringing this up as a point of, like I said, if players it doesn't have to be this long. If you had like a page. Sure. You are a grand hero going off to, save the princess or explore the dungeon or whatever, something. But I just remember every time I've tried to get into D&D, first one, all right, so take some dice and blah, blah, and I'm like,
I got you.
Yeah.
Anyways. I will say that for Battletech, the best concise history of Battletech, because there's no, the best history is getting all 3 million books that are out there. But the best concise history, at least for this era of game, is actually in the Dropships and Jumpships book. It's concise. It goes through this whole thing in even fewer words, but gives you enough information to say, okay, I understand what I'm getting into in the universe. This one has to be a little more fluff oriented because it's actually a tabletop role playing game version of BattleTech. But I've always loved the presentation in the Dropships and the original. I don't know about anything that came after, but the original Dropships and Jumpships book.
All right. Well.
So I get to do the Succession Wars? Yes. All righty. The Succession Wars, and in case it doesn't say it here, it probably will. We're on the 3rd one right now, as of this book. We just ended the 3rd one. Kerensky's dramatic exodus removed the last real obstacle to civil war. In December 2786, Minoru Kurita declared himself First Lord of the Star League. He's like, forget the other 4. I don't care anymore. I'm it. I'm the man in charge. Bow down to me. Because that's what you do when you're Japanese. And the other 4 counselors quickly followed suit. And go, oh, it's me, man. No, what about me? Within months, war engulfed the entire inner sphere. The first succession war lasted from 2787 to 2821. Whew, that's a long time. A conflagration of unparalleled brutality. The warring lords cast aside the Ares Convention, smashing cities, destroying vital industrial facilities, and butchering hundreds of millions of civilians. Remember, these worlds aren't populated with like billions and billions of people like Earth is. These worlds, it can be anywhere from a few thousand to a few million for the most part. So 100 million or hundreds of millions of people means this thing was across the entire inner sphere and everybody was affected.
Which then also does kind of make me wonder, like, the fact that, like, okay, you're gonna set up colonies, but then like the birth rate is going to be extremely low like it is now. You know, like it kind of makes me wonder why they would have like been pushing for so much colonization when it's like there's still plenty of planet to tame and conquer.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
I'm not arguing with that. I mean, to be fair, I don't think BattleTech, and if it did, I either missed it or forgot about it. But I don't think BattleTech ever got into, well, we need to maintain a 2.5 child birth rate. So.
No, right. No, they don't talk about that. But then also you look at like a lot of times, like a planet is being defended by a lance of battle mechs. Okay, well, why would the whole planet be being defended by a lance of battle mechs? Well, probably because there's maybe 2 cities and like a few thousand, like you said, a few thousand people.
And to be fair, what's his name? Kerensky took 80% of the military with him. So having 4 battle mechs, they've still probably had 100 tanks and 10,000 troops or something. I'm just throwing out numbers out there. So depending on the size of the planet. So the problem is we all focus on the BattleTech side. It's one of the things that even playing BattleTech that, and I think Nerds Nerd talked about this at one point, that she enjoys doing this as well, is I like combined arms. We used to do things like you get 3 tanks and 1 mech when you play. We like doing that because it made more sense for the era that we played in what we were doing. Sure, it's fun to just put your big stompy robots out there and go blast each other, but I like to kind of recreate what this is presenting.
It gets into the story. I mean, it's okay. Yeah. So the battle mech facilities are destroyed.
Yeah,
but the car ones aren't. Building another car with a gun on it is a lot easier than building another walking robot. So,
and one of the things I also wanted to say, considering when you were reading, and it's all throughout this stuff, I'm pausing at certain locations that people are like, "What the hell's his deal?" This game has so many, again, foreshadowing events, but also actual real-world historical events that it twists and puts into the setting as if it's like a BattleTech thing. There are absolute direct quotes from real-world emperors and leaders and military officials and so forth that this game just, in 2650, this guy did this thing. You're like, oh yeah, that's what the dude did in World War I,
Right.
So there's if you do a little bit of historical research on this, so they intentionally did that, of course, copied a lot of history to put in here, and some of that stuff is just recollecting in my head and I'm like, oh yeah, that's where that came from. That was from the Spanish-American War. Okay, that was from the Russo-Lithuania War, things like that. So
well, but that is also one of those things that's interesting that I've been thinking about lately. Just from some other comments that I've seen elsewhere, looking at the things that we read that we are aware of now, like versus what they would have grown up on. Like how many of these guys, learned Latin, in high school, back in the 50s, that by the time we got there, never was a thing. And just some of the old classics, the old ways of telling stories that, unfortunately just aren't surviving. But
I've got thoughts on that, but we'll go on.
Yeah, we'll do that on another episode.
Ones that allows me to say a few words that I might not be allowed to say right now. Few worlds escaped unscathed, and all were affected by the complete disruption of trade and commerce. By 2815, the warring states had lost most of their FTL shipbuilding capacity. Furthermore, the intense concentration of economic resources on military production had forced a major curtailment of production of consumer goods, and thus a decline in trade. This loss of trade proved particularly disastrous for those worlds relying on advanced technology, water purifiers. Without proper maintenance or spare parts, many of these facilities began to fail, forcing the colonists to abandon the world or to return to ice ship technologies. Why don't they just make a big pot and boil it all? Just saying. By the war's end in 2821, water-rich planets had become as strategically viable as they had been 400 years before. The peace of 2821 was uneasy, resulting more from exhaustion than any true reconciliation. Though no party could claim to have made much progress toward its goal of domination, too many atrocities had occurred to allow any sort of lasting settlement. From 2821 through 2827, the 5 surviving ruling houses rebuilt as much of their military might as possible, concentrating their surviving scientists and engineers on those few worlds whose industrial capacity remained intact. Between 2828 and 2830, tensions along the border of each rival house erupted in open warfare once more. You just had 2 generations of warfare, hundreds of millions of people dying. You're like, let's do it again.
Round 2.
round 2. Fight. Dun, 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 dun. The Second Secession War lasted from approximately 2830 to 2863 and was just as deadly, destructive, and indecisive as its predecessor. Hundreds of millions more died in the countless battles across the inner sphere, though only a few dozen worlds ultimately changed hands. That's lovely. As the war destroyed more industrial facilities and killed off more scientists and engineers, some types of specialized knowledge and technology began to disappear entirely. By the end of the Second Secession War, the successor state's overall level of technological knowledge had sunk to a level barely above that of Earth in the early 21st century. Hey, that's us! It was no longer easy to build advanced computers, large fusion power plants, and starships. Instead, the warlords of the successor states began to cannibalize existing equipment for spare parts to keep their current war machines in working order. After a second brief respite, I'm going to guess 5 years this time. That's my guess. The Third Succession War erupted in 2866. Okay, let's do the math. No, it's only 3 years. You know what? Yeah, a little respite. They took a pause. They breathed.
We needed a nap.
What's that?
We needed a nap.
We needed a nap. There you go. It began when advanced forces of the Draconis Combine invaded the Corward portion of the Iron Commonwealth and then spread across the inner sphere. In the years that followed, war became such a fact of everyday life that contemporary chronicles refer to the period simply as the Succession Wars. Nonetheless, later campaigns did not match the violence of the first 2 wars. Well, but it was a lot longer, as hopefully we'll see here in a moment. At first, the decrease in destruction and bloodshed appeared to be more a function of each army's reduced resources than a philosophical change in tactics. They just didn't have enough killing machines anymore. Scroll up to here. Is that a griffin?
Yeah, it is.
As more time passed, however, the exigencies? Exigencies? That's another word. Apparently, I'm being learnified right now. The exigencies of a scavenger economy took hold. Each of the houses realized it could ill afford further loss of vital resources. Gradually, an informal set of rules of warfare evolved, similar to the area's conventions. Mech units and armies still fought over possession of operational factories, but neither side attempted to harm the facility itself. The losers simply told themselves that they would win the planet back in the next war. Major mech battles, especially between mercenary units, were often fought in stages, with both sides allowing enemy techs to enter the battlefield during periods of truce to attend to damaged mechs. Other mech units, again, especially mercenaries, revived the old tradition of surrendering to a superior force and paying a ransom to obtain their off-world release. Most importantly, everyone recognized the sanctity of any house's jump ships and strictly obeyed the prohibition placed on attacking such craft. Well, mostly. Without which war for supremacy could not be waged at all. By the way, that entire paragraph was all about, hey, we are now fighting like the Middle Ages. Yeah. A second outgrowth of destructiveness of the Succession Wars was the rise of feudalism throughout the Inner Sphere. Really, now you noticed?
Yeah.
The central governments of the ruling houses no longer possessed either the administrative machinery or absolute military resources to maintain centralized control over their territories. Instead, each warlord ruled a hierarchy of planetary nobles, often drawn from the leadership of the most elite mech units, awarding them full authority over worlds in exchange for the pledged service of their battle mechs. Okay, let's knight everybody. Indeed, the years of conflicts wreaked havoc beyond the borders of the successor states and created the phenomenon known as the bandit kingdoms of the periphery. As the wars raged back and forth along the frontier, dozens of mech units, often comprised of either fragments of defeated units or mutinous mercenaries, fled into the vastness of the periphery. Several of these units emerged again, often after a number of years, as kings of one or more small worlds seized by force of arms. By the end of the 30th century, there were more than 60 known small kingdoms and principalities ringing the inner sphere, creating the ever-present threat of raids and piracy to the frontiers of each house. Now, real quickly here, most of that was to the, I'm going to use the wrong terms here because I cannot remember which one's coreward and which one's outward, but to the north and to the west on the map. Because the south was the Magistry of Canopus and the Taurian Concordat. To the east was the Outworlds alignments. So the Bandit Kingdoms were mostly north and west.
Right. Yeah, that would be.
I think it's Coreward and because I think south is Rimward, but I forget. That's why I didn't want to.
Right. It's and that's the thing is like, it's more like the inner sphere, the north of the inner sphere. Like is more like if you had like the Milky Way like this, we would be over here, and then it would just be pointing straight up. So it's kind of going off to the side, anyways. So, anyway, yes, just look at the unfortunate two-dimensional map of the inner sphere. That's a lot. That is frustrating. It's like you know that this is supposed to essentially be a globe, but all we ever get is a flat representation.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, though, when you see maps of even the universe, or like I used to get like Astronomy Magazine and whatnot when I was younger, they're always two-dimensional maps of three-dimensional space because that's how we don't have hologram. Well, we kind of do, but we don't have holographic technology like that yet, where you can see that.
Well,
that's
but that's actually kind of the funny thing is because like if you want a map of like say the solar system, I mean there is the
solar plane,
right? The solar plane where the planets more or less are, so you can do a two-dimensional map that way. But but the inner sphere is supposed to be there's planets in all directions, right. But we get
well that's the explanation. Like because I always when I was younger be like, how the hell did the Outworlds Alliance actually join forces with the Concordat and with the Canopans when they're way off over here and those guys are down there? And like my friends, you say, dude, just think of it as three-dimensional space. I'm sure there's ways they could hop through, and not everything's gonna be this perfect little circle when it or even globe when it comes to the inner sphere. I'm like, that's fair. Sometimes, again, a lot of suspension of disbelief in this era of BattleTech, but again, that's what I love about it. I really do.
Well, but that's the thing. It's like it's suspension of disbelief for some of the big things that we really can't explain, and then making what I would say is reasonable postulations for the things that we can. Yeah,
we'll rationalize everything that doesn't make sense. We can do it.
Well, but I mean that's what you have to do in science fiction, So it's
well, and it's actually better they do that than make up some sort of techno wizardry rule or word. It's tachyons, sir. It's always tachyons. Oh, sure. I know those are real, but I'm just saying like but some sort of term that that sounds all scientific jargon.
Well, I mean, making the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
Hey, but that does make sense after they rationalized it out.
Oh, after they retconned it, sure, but
it's actually the distance between because of all these floating black holes. Okay, yeah, got it. But hey, that was a pretty good introduction to the history to let you understand that humans started off being humans and then they became even more human and we're all fighting each other, and that's just the way. And we live in a feudal world,
right? No, exactly.
Universe.
Well, but that's the cool thing is that like I said, I wanted to look at how the history, or how the fictional history was developed. Again, this is 40 years ago. The kind of tech that doesn't exist. I mean, I think about it, like you know, when they did like the BattleTech cartoon, they would still do like, or actually the better examples like Robotech, which is partly what inspired BattleTech. They still had corded telephones.
Mm-hmm.
But it's supposed to be in the future. But now we've got cell phones in our pockets, and like tiny displays.
Well, they did have little note pewters? Is that what they were called? They did have some things, but yeah, they still weren't like fully wireless. You didn't have drones flying everywhere. One of the things that you jogged my memory on something. Oh, one of the major complaints from a lot of people about BattleTech is ranges. Like, dude, my rifle shoots farther than what this battle mech does. I just want to jump into that now. They wanted the game to be played on a tabletop where you could still move the mechs around. So yes, the history doesn't make sense in the way the fact that 1980s technology is even better than some of the technology here, but understand they did that around the premise of a game that they wanted you to be able to actually play on your tabletop. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's fantastic. It makes a great board game, and I'm not even a board gamer, and it translates well into a role-playing game as well. Stop trying to, like, we got ICBMs that go 19, can go across the world. Stupid battle mech here can only shoot 270 meters. Yes.
Well, no, but that's the other thing. I mean, you look at and I'm quote unquote making up numbers. So, anybody who wants to come at me for getting the numbers wrong, I don't care. I'm making
I'm here
it up
for you.
I know. But take like just a standard, M16. Okay. The actual range is what, say 1,000 yards? Like the actual range. Okay.
I honestly don't know. I trained out to 300 yards, so that's it.
Well, but that's what I was going to say. Is the actual range is probably about 1,000 yards.
Yeah, but M16s don't have targeting computers.
No, but hold on. My point was just going to be the actual effective range is going to be about 100 to 300 yards. Okay, and so right, yeah.
I love it. See, that's exactly. Now play the damn game. It's based around, this is a game first, reality second. As much as it tries to piggyback on reality and be part of reality, you need that reality in order for you to be engaged with the universe. But then it can take that and spread it whatever direction it wants to make the game fit. Again, it's what I love about BattleTech.
Right, exactly. And game rules are not necessarily reality. They're doing the best to explain it. But that's kind of my point, is that when they do try to explain it. Like a hex is supposed to be about 30 meters.
Yep.
So like a machine gun, what's its range? 3 hexes, or about 90 meters. What's that? Oh, like I said, about 100 yards. So 100 yards. Could it go farther? Sure. Doesn't matter. Not really.
She's not wrong. I was Air Force, so hey. So there you go. I had to shoot at Army pop-up targets for combat training because I was in one of those fields. But yeah,
I would like to point out that my numbers were not that far off. Thank you very much.
That's fair. But ultimately, again, I'm looking more at things like missiles and so forth. But with that said, remember, you're not playing in Earth universe. I mean, I know Earth is in here. Actually, they call it Terra. You're playing in an alternate history universe that has alternate universal constants. Have fun.
Right.
Play the dumb game. As Nerd said, now play the damn game.
Right. Exactly. So let's talk about playing the game.
Yeah, let's do it.
By creating characters.
Woohoo!
Because I mean, it is a role-playing game, so that's what we're here for. All right. Before players can begin adventuring in the universe of the warlords and the successor states, they must create characters. Spoiler alert, they said characters. By selecting the abilities and skills that his character will possess, the player is defining and limiting what the character will be able to accomplish on and off the battlefield. Just as in life, a character's skills will increase as he survives firefights and other encounters, improving his chances for continued survival. Players whose characters do not survive will have to generate a new character to replace the one killed.
What? There's no resurrection spell?
Not until Kerensky returns.
Touche. Touche, sir.
If he does, hint, hint. In Mechwarrior, all player characters in a campaign party are assumed to be members of the same regular or mercenary mech unit, which can be as small as a single lance of 4 mechs or as large as a full company within an established battalion or regiment. Initially, each player should design at least one character who is an active Mechwarrior, the pilot of one of the unit's mechs. However, gamers can use the character creation rules to design other kinds of characters that are also part of a mech unit. These include techs, aerospace, dropship or jumpship pilots, and engineers and scouts or spies. Creating characters in Mechwarrior is a 2-stage process. Each player first designs one or more player characters using the rules in this and the next chapter. The players group as a whole will then use the rules in the chapter on creating a mech unit to design the non-player characters of the mech unit, as well as to determine their unit's present affiliation, status, and special capabilities. Having completed this process, both the players and game master will have a good feel for the unit's mix of skills and background and be ready to begin the campaign. So, all right, I'm not going to spoil it because it's coming up right in this section. So,
you want me to do it or you got it?
Actually, I'm going to take it because because I was very happy when I found this. So
I understand.
I'll bring it up. All right. Planning a mech unit. Game masters and players whose previous role-playing experience has been primarily with fantasy role-playing games should note one significant difference between the medieval fantasy portrayed in those games and the Battletech universe of the year 3025. In most fantasy game systems, players can assemble a party composed of a variety of different character types. For example, fighter, thief, wizard, cleric, and then have the entire party participate in the same encounters and adventures. In the future world of the successor states, however, a mech unit relies on the combined efforts of its warriors, aerospace pilots, and support personnel, but there are relatively few occasions when all members of a unit are active at the same time in the same place. Even the individual lances of a Mechwarrior company are often hundreds of miles removed from one another, attempting to accomplish different objectives during a planetary campaign. Because of this, a group of 5 players should not set up a party consisting of 2 Mechwarriors, a tech, a scout, and an aerospace pilot, because that would leave almost all the characters sitting around with nothing to do for most of the game session. Instead, game masters should allow each player to run 2 or more characters simultaneously. A group of 4 players belonging to a company-sized mech unit, for example, might each have up to 3 Mechwarrior characters, 1 for each lance, 1 to 2 techs, and an air lance character, either pilot or tech, under their control. In this way, every player will always be actively involved in the action. All right. So, for the audience, this was a game changer for me. I have complained about this game forever because of the fact that, like mech pilots, they're not spies. They're not the guys that's going to go sneak into the base and steal the Death Star plans. They're not, like Iron Eagle was a stupid movie. Okay.
Chappie!
So, I have always equated these kinds of games to Iron Eagle, and I thought it was dumb. And so while I love Battletech, Mechwarrior just didn't click to me, but I was also kind of an idiot and I didn't read this part of the book. So I think this is actually brilliant, setting it up for essentially troop play so that, like if you need a spy session, well, everybody bring out the tech characters. Maybe have 1 or 2 of the Mechwarriors go in as bodyguards or something. I don't know, whatever. But, essentially have characters to be able to play throughout the campaign. And I thought it was brilliant.
So I've played by far 2nd edition more than any other edition of this game. Okay. And I just looked, now it could be somewhere else in the book, but I just looked at the beginning at the character creation part, and it does not say that. And I'm just going to be upfront. Well, I have opinions about what it says there, and I'll get into that in a second. It's necessary. It should have been put in here, because the reason why these campaigns didn't last is because they did one of two things. They either turned into let's just play BattleTech or let's play Traveler. That's essentially what the games turned into, because nobody because I don't think I may have ran it, but I don't think I did. I think I was just a player in all the games I played in. It was that exact thing. Somebody was a hotshot. Somebody was an Aztec. Somebody was so you couldn't get them all together. You couldn't get them all to do, okay, maybe you could have a bar fight or something, but you couldn't have that investigative. You couldn't have that, we got to crawl through the sewers. Hey, we've got a jump ship that's falling apart here, and we got to have you repair it here and you repair it there, and, tie some things together. Ultimately, if that game would have said that and game masters would have read it, I think that would have helped. Now, personally, I'm being very, very pedantic here. You absolutely can take what I'm about to say and say, Max, it's there. Stop it. I get it. I agree with you.
Rules
I
as
don't
written,
like.
Max.
What's that?
Rules as written, Max.
No. But rules as written, you can read it the way I'm going to say it isn't read. Okay, I know you can. But this implies to me that I'm sitting at the table with 4 characters or whatever. No, I will never be in that game. I will never. No, that is not a game for me. I play one character, and that is it. With that said, the traditional troop style play where, hey, this week we're going to be on the battlefield because we ended the session with the fight starting over there, so bring your Mechwarriors. And then, okay, that battle's taken care of. You've done your things, whatever. Hey, next week we've got the intel guys going out there to got EOD diffusing some bombs. We got to take over some locations. We got some prisoners to interrogate. Yada yada. So bring your diplomatic or your investigative characters. I'm totally for that. We can do that.
Yeah, I think your proposal, I actually really like that kind of idea, where like the way that I would kind of describe it is sort of like a series play or campaign,
like
and
episodic.
So, right. In this episode, it's the Mechwarriors. In this episode, it's the techs. In this episode, it's the aerospace fighters and Chappie, and but
I got hung up, and like I said, I know me highlighting it here doesn't do anything for you. But it says instead game masters should allow each player to run 2 or more characters simultaneously. I know that troop style players will be like, you play characters simultaneously in troop style play because, well, these guys are out adventuring, these guys are out researching spells or whatever, right? I get that. I just got hung up on that word and the fact like I am not going to sit at any table ever and have 2 character sheets in front of me unless I'm the game master. And try to run 2 characters is not how I play.
Right. No, but I think you're right that yes, it can be read that way. Mm-hmm. But I think you make a great point that as a game master, have everybody make, like in this particular example, make their 5 characters, which is, I think, okay, that's probably borderline ridiculous. But make your 5 characters and then just say, okay, yeah, next week bring the aerospace pilots. Cool. Yep. All right, I know what we're doing next week.
Or bring the scouts. Let's go see what's over the next hill, so to speak, right, as they're doing that, and put those challenges in front of them. And what's kind of cool about that is, like, so when I run games, I tend to end on a cliffhanger. So you're about to enter the fight, or you just made a decision that could go left, right, up, down, whatever, and now the curtain falls and we'll come back next week, which is really great for something like this because you can end the battle and then have the cleanup crew come through. And then before you go to the next battle, you have the scouts go forward. And as a game master, you can prepare for those adventures completely differently. And it keeps you interested. It keeps the players interested.
Well, it also, I think, would help get the players involved in the prep. Yeah. Okay,
yes.
So have the scout characters. Okay. Hey, so you guys have to go and figure out what's going on. Okay. We figured it out. Cool. Now you have to bring in your your Mechwarrior characters, to go and beat up the thing that we figured out. Mm-hmm. And then you have to bring in the aerospace characters to actually extract everyone because the mission went horribly sideways. Okay, are we going to be able to rescue the guys and get them out?
And you got your tech characters that have to go out there and scrounge for equipment and hope it works and make those jury rig rolls.
Oh yeah. No. Oh man.
I'm telling you, to this day, the first edition Mercenaries Handbook, for 2 reasons, is by far the best supplement for Battlefield. We're not talking about that today, unfortunately, but that is, if there are 2 facets of that book that for whatever reason they didn't continue on. Absolutely fantastic, and jury rig rolls are one of them.
Well, maybe that'll be in a future series.
Woohoo!
Yeah. All right. Tell us about designing Mechwarrior characters.
I will do that for everybody out there. For each first-time character to be generated, a player receives 150 character points to purchase the attributes, skills, and inborn abilities that will define the character. If the player is designing a Mechwarrior, he must also spend character points to purchase the mech the character will pilot. Oh God, I remember that. You're not starting off with an Atlas.
Well, yeah, but
or you're going to be a 7/7 pilot. Attributes. The first step in generating a character is to determine the attribute scores. This is a number representing a character's relative development in 4 physical and mental areas: body, dexterity, learning ability, and charisma. Each attribute is rated on a scale from 2 to 12, with 6 considered an average rating. These scores tend to remain constant and can be compared to see which character is quicker, stronger, and more intelligent. Oops. On here. Want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. To purchase attributes, consult the attribute cost table. If a player selects an average score of 6 for his character, there is no character point cost. To purchase a 7 or higher, cross-index the number in the attribute column across the body, dexterity, learn, or charisma column to find the CP cost. And we'll look at that in a moment here. Players also have the option of taking a lower than normal attribute. You a dum-dum. In this case, they receive a CP credit, which increases the character's supply. A player may spend any or all of his initial CP on this phase of character creation because you didn't want a mech anyway. So, this game got a lot of backwardness in it.
That's the first adventure. You got to get your mech.
There you go. So if you win, so you have 150 points, right? If you go 6 across the board, you got zeros. Now, this is where I say that the game is backward. Again, in old school play, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons, even Palladium to some degree, Call of Cthulhu, whatever, a lot of games out there, they didn't care about these nuances because one, took the time to read the books, and 2, simple math didn't bother us. I think a modern player is going to look at this and freak out sometimes because an attribute score of 6 means you roll an 8 or better. An attribute score of 10 means you roll a 4 or better. Why couldn't they just make the attribute score opposite? Because they didn't deal with it. It just all boils down to the 2d6. And it's very simple. The target number goes down by 1 as your attribute score goes up by 1. So now that dexterity, why? Actually, we could look at learn, but why, Brian, is dexterity worth more than body?
I'm going to guess that dexterity is used for your gunnery skill.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll look at it in a bit, but yeah, it's a game. I don't want to call it balance. It's a game appropriateness. If you just went out there and like, oh, I don't need strength because I'm always going to be in my mech. I don't need charisma. I want to be a private. Just tell me where to go. But I want that learn. I'm going to be the smartest guy. I'm going to have 400 skills on there. They have to balance that out somehow, sure. We'll just say. Now, the numbers marked with an asterisk indicate the CP credit. So, obviously, I don't know why they couldn't just put a minus sign in front of it, but, it's the 80s. Maybe we didn't have it invented back then. I'm not sure. But it's plus 15 points here, which really means...
Well, but let's be honest, this whole chart is just done poorly because think about it. They're like, okay, you have this many points. Well, your CP cost to go to 7, which is better, implies that you're now getting 10 more points.
So I agree with you, but I also disagree. I agree with you in a modern context. I disagree with you, and this is why. I've got a few games behind me. One of them being Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness from Palladium Books. And they do the same thing. So many with the bio-E cost to make your mutant. They'll say you have 60 points, but you actually start at 0 and you top off at 60.
Yeah.
Us being rational human beings are just going to subtract it every time. I get it. But game mechanics tended to work in this direction in that era in general.
Right. No, I realize it is a product of the time kind of a situation, but it's still confusing.
and so because you're supposed to start you're not supposed to start at 150 and subtract. You're supposed to start at 0 and say, okay, I want a dexterity of 8, so that cost me 30 points. I want to learn of 7, so that'll cost me 20 more points. It's now cost me a total of 50 points. I get it. I know exactly what you're saying because I do the same thing, but I did want to point out there that it definitely a product of its time in that regard, and I also don't think that simple math should bother people.
No, it doesn't. It's not that the simple math is a problem. It's just that they're confusing us as to how to do the simple math. Because again, it's one of those things.
Wargamers were a tougher breed, sir.
No, because you're having to assume that people are going to again start at 0 and add their points up until they get to 150, as opposed to starting at 150 and subtracting as they go.
I gotcha.
So anyway, whatever. We are nitpicking something.
No, but that's kind of what's fun. I mean, one of the things we talked about at the beginning was noticing things of its era, right?
Oh yeah.
Like this book is over 40 years old, or it is 40 years old. So, kind of pointing those things out is also what's part of the fun. I can't talk anymore. Do you want me to keep reading here, or do you want to take it?
I'll take it from here.
Okay.
All right. Minimum Mechwarrior attributes. 5 centuries of Mechwarrior history show that most successful Mechwarriors have good dex, average to above average learn, and reasonably robust body. Thus, no Mechwarrior character may have a dex or learn score lower than 5, although charisma, as it were,
like that.
is not essential for the average Mechwarrior. It is important to those aiming for a position of leadership or who must spend any significant amount of time outside their mech, whether managing land grants or seeking new employment assignments. Note.
So stop. I want you to read this note and tell me what you actually think about this.
Techs and other character classes may have any attribute score.
If my tech named Cletus comes up, be like, "Oh, hey there, ball, I'm gonna fix your mech for you." No, you're not. You are going to go take an English class and maybe learn what 2 + 2 is before you come and touch my mech. You're not fixing a thing.
No. I'm sorry. If Cletus has been hired as the mech tech, in this mercenary unit, I mean, he's got some hillbilly nonsense going on that is going to keep this regiment running like there's no...
So we called that in Minnesota, growing up, we called that farmer's intelligence. The dude might not have an encyclopedia in his head, but he's got that wisdom, he's got that understanding where he can either fix stuff or whatever. No, I get that. But I'm talking, if my tech comes up to me and he, obviously we don't see character attributes over his head, but we'll use them for the purpose of the game, and he's got a learn of 3, I do not want him being my tech. This whole thing where techs can have any attribute score, no, you cannot. You must have a learn of 12 or higher in order to be my tech. 12. Okay. You have to have a 13 to be my tech. You have to be alien intelligence because I do not trust you otherwise.
I think they are just implying that non-Mechwarrior class they put...
Oh, wow, you dropped out.
Oh. Am I back?
Yeah, you've been kind of robotic throughout the stream a little bit.
Oh, jeez. I wonder...
Not too bad. I've understood you the entire way through, but...
Yeah, All right.
That sounds kind of ableist. If he's fixing my mech for me, yes!
Yeah.
I don't want to go in there and find my flux capacitor missing.
No, but I mean, I think it's just saying that Mechwarriors have these restrictions on dexterity and learning but the other classes don't.
No, my tech, I'm just telling you right now, my tech will have a learn of 6 or higher, and that 6 is going to get squinty eyed. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Why is that left? Why does my mech have 2 left feet? Just wonder.
All right, once they have been determined, attribute scores normally do not change during the game. They may be modified by the game master as a result of accident or other event during the adventure or campaign, or may be increased as a result of experience. Each personal attribute affects a character's basic ability to perform various types of endeavors as described below. Body. This attribute measures a character's basic strength, stamina, and ability to withstand adverse conditions. It also determines the total number of wounds a character can sustain before dying or falling unconscious. A character's total hits to kill for combat is equal to body times 10. Body also determines a character's skill rating target in survival and brawling and helps determine his skill rating target in athletics. Dexterity. Dexterity measures the character's general coordination, reflexes, and agility and is the basis for saving rolls involving actions related to these. Dex also determines a character's base skill rating target for mech gunnery, driver, and the use of all handheld weapons. Dex also helps determine a character's skill rating for target for athletics, rogue, and the piloting skills. Learning ability. Learn measures the character's ability to understand complex or technical concepts, as well as his skill at gathering useful information through observation and exploration. Learn helps determine a character's base skill rating targets for artillery, aerospace gunnery, technician, engineering, mechanical, computer, medical first aid, jump ship piloting, navigation, land management, tactics, piloting mech, piloting aerospace, and interrogation. Character's learn rating also limits the number of skill areas in which a character can purchase skill levels and the maximum level he can achieve in those skills. Charisma.
Charisma.
Measures the character's physical appearance, personal magnetism, and strength of presence. Charisma determines a character's skill rating targets for diplomacy, leadership, and streetwise, and helps determine his target for interrogation skill. The score is often used as the basis for reaction rolls made by NPCs meeting the character for the first time. Cletus does not have a high charisma.
Well, I might not be pretty, but people like me. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Oh, he's from my state. I forgot about that. Never mind. Forget that guy.
All right, tell us about saving throws.
All right, making saving rolls. To determine whether a character has the ability to perform a specific action based on one of the 4 attributes, a saving roll is made with 2 6-sided dice. Love that consistency. Battletech is 2 6-sided dice. Mechwarrior is 2 6-sided dice. You can just jump from one to the next seamlessly. 2 6-sided dice. That's going to be the name of the game throughout. The next to last column on the attribute cost table shows the base saving roll target for each attribute score. Saving roll target is always equal to 14 minus the attribute score. For example, a character with body of 8, dex 6, learn 7 would have saving roll targets of 6, 8, and 7, respectively. We already showed that. If this like, wait, you're speaking 8s and 6s and 7s all over the place. We showed you the chart. Or the table. It's in the table. You can look at it.
Page 10, everybody.
Page 10. You want to show them that again so they're not scared? Or no?
Right
there we
here,
go.
Folks.
You look at that saving roll target. There you go. Player must roll a number equal to or higher than this target to accomplish a task of normal difficulty using a given attribute. So there you go, equal to or higher. That's why it's called a target number. Skill roll targets, very similar. Some might even say the same. In Mechwarrior, a character's attribute scores are also used to determine his base target number for skill rolls. The last column of the attribute cost table shows the base skill roll target associated with each attribute score. Would you like to show them that, Brian? To show them how there's that minor nuance difference there. Oh, there you go. It goes to, oh, actually, I thought they were the same. I am wrong. They do go down a little lower, a little slower.
Yes.
Okay. My fault. For some reason, I thought they were the same. I got learned. This target number is this target number is the minimum roll on a 2d6 that a character would have to equal or exceed in order to accomplish a task of normal difficulty employing a skill. For example, Jeff Conroy, a Mechwarrior character with a body score of 9, would have a skill rating target of 8 for brawling and survival, the two skills that are based on body. If the character had a dex of 6, his target for dex-related skills would be 9. Ouch. Some skills are based on more than one attribute. Athletic, acrobatic, oh my god. All of a sudden speaking English has turned into a difficulty for me. Athletic acrobatics, piloting mech, piloting aerospace, rogue, and interrogation. To obtain the skill rating targets for these, the player averages together his character's 2 attribute scores, rounding down. For our sample character skill ratings in athletics, a body dex skill, we average the scores of the 2 ratings. So 9 plus 6 divided by 2 is 7.5, rounded down to 7, which yields a skill rating target of 8. That's
I'm using the chart.
I get no. I guess the chart gives you the 9 and the 6. You have to do the math from there. I'm trying to put this in the right context. No, screw it. I'm just going to say how I think about it. That math isn't hard. Deal with it. I hate it when people complain about stuff like that. Oh my God, round it down, round it up. And why is it 7.5 and then turns to an 8? Well, like Brian said a moment ago, that 7 point, you use the chart there. You'll get, you won't get this because you'll get 9 and 6.
That's true. Yeah. Because this is talking about the multi-attribute skills.
But on the chart, you'll look at 7. So you can look at the chart for 7, which has a skill target rating of 8. So if you look at 7 and you go all the way to the last column, you'll see it says 8.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right.
So you take the 9 plus 6, you'd have 15. And I'm doing this for the viewer. I'm not saying you're stupid in math here. I'm just trying to clarify it for the viewer. So 9 plus 16 is 15. So the body and dex is a total of 15. Combine those two together. Now, since it's 2 attributes, you're dividing it by 2. You get 7.5. Well, in this game, you round down. Sorry, but that's what you do. Everything's rounded down. So that becomes a 7. And then you look on that table and say, hey, what's 7 say for that table? As Brian just showed you a moment ago, it's a target of 8.
Yeah, honestly, it was an ADHD moment. I was distracted on something, and no, it's just saying some of these skills are going to tell you that it uses 2 different attributes and average them out, round down, and bam, you get a number. And then you take that number, compare it to the chart. That's all you got to do. Yes, math is not hard. My brain's just not.
But Brian, what if you want to roll something better than it? You're like, this 8 sucks, man. I want to roll a 7 or a 6 or a 5. I want to roll better. Well, guess what? We can purchase some skill levels. So during the initial character generation, players may purchase skill levels in any of the 25 skill areas to further flesh out their character. Each level improves, which means lower in this case, a character's skill rating target in that field by 1, thus lowering by 1 the base target number needed to make a successful skill roll. So let's look at Mechwarrior Jeff Conroy again. What a great name. He must have just a wonderful family line. Has a learn of 7, which gives him a target skill rating of 8 in all learn-based skills. If Jeff purchases level 1 training in engineering and level 2 training in medical first aid, his initial base target numbers in these skills at the start of his career will be 7 for engineering and 6 for medical first aid. It's that simple. Every skill point drops it down, and your roll is even better. Skill levels in any of the 5 multi-attribute skills cost the same as a single attribute skill. Well, that's cool. However, players must remember that their skill rating targets in those multi-attribute fields are based on the average of the 2 attributes involved. So in a way, it still takes 2 points to truly lower it for you.
Let me just make sure I'm understanding this. Mm-hmm. So you take your attribute value,
mm-hmm.
and then taking skill ratings essentially, quote unquote, boost the attribute value for that skill.
So if you scroll up to the chart, it'll be easier if you bring up that table again.
So I have.
Let's do that. Let's do the same one that's before, the 9 and the 6.
Well, no, just an attribute score is 7 because again.
Okay, so after all that math, you're right. We had a 7. Yes.
Right.
Now
now I have 2 skill ratings. So essentially, we could say that I'm an attribute of 9 for that skill, and so then come over, and this is going to be my target number, correct?
No. Well, I guess I didn't understand exactly how you worded that. So that 7. Oh, I see what you're saying. That 7 would become an 8.
If I have one, but say I have level 2 in the skill, so I'm at a 9.
Then it would, if you have level 2 in the skill, it would become a 9. It's still the same roll.
Correct. Right. But I'm just making sure that I'm understanding.
Yeah. You are. So you have to get an attribute score of 10 for that in order to actually be reduced by 1. That is if I got that right. So now I'm second guessing myself because I haven't played in 40 years. If Jeff purchased 1 training, engineering, 2 training, his base initial numbers, these skills start his career. No. It reduces his base. So that would reduce it. It would reduce it by 2.
Okay, yeah, right. Because he has a learning of 7, and then a skill rating of 1, so 8. And then a level 2 or level 1 for engineering, level 2 for medical first aid.
Right.
So,
yes. I was overcomplicating the multi-attribute skills. The single attribute skill is no big deal for me. I was overcomplicated for no good reason the multi-attribute skill. So what would happen is you'd have that 7 that we had before. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. You make that a 7, right? And if you have a skill point in it, that drops down to a 6. If you have another skill point in it, drops down to a 5. If you have another skill point in it, drops down to a 4.
Well, no. You have a 7 attribute, which is an 8 skill rating. So that's what it's saying right here. So he purchased level 1 in training and engineering with his target skill rating of 8. But at level 1, he's now rolling.
We're talking apples and oranges right now. You're in the single skill category, and you're 100% right. I was talking the multi skill category using the example they previously gave.
Yeah. No, we're not talking apples and oranges. We're talking, Honey Crisp and Granny Smith. Okay. Because my brain literally wasn't locking in on just this basic part. Okay. Because you're still right on this, where you take the 2 attributes, multiply, divide, blah, 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 and then figure out this, because then you get this, essentially you get this composite attribute of 7.
Which gives you a skill target of 8.
Correct. And then if I have, say I have level 2 in athletics, okay, but my body and dex gives me a 7. Well, then I would be rolling higher than a 5 or a 6.
Wait, what?
Because I have athletics 2. Athletics is a body dex skill. So we have 9 plus 6 for our body dex divided by 2, 7.5, round down to 7, which yields a skill rating target of 8.
Right.
Okay, so the base attributes skill rating target is 8.
Right.
Athletics of 2 means that my new skill target is 6.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. That again, I didn't lock in on this part. Now I figured that out.
Yeah, and I screwed it up the first time because I was overcomplicating the multi-attribute skills because I thought it went back to the individual attributes. It doesn't. It says it right here, the skill rating target. And I, for whatever reason, like you were saying, I locked in on attribute, not skill target. We've absolutely overcomplicated this way more than we needed to. This example here is perfect, and Brian just gave you a really good example. I'm scrolling up. They can't see me scroll. Scrolling up, that example right there. Nope, go back to the example you just showed.
Here.
Right there. Yeah, that right there. If you go by that example exactly as he said, so we got athletics. Base athletics has a target of 8. If you put 2 skill points into it, it will reduce to a 6. 8 minus 2 is 6.
Well, no, not base athletics. Base body dex has a target of 8. The 9 plus 6 divided by 2, getting a. Yeah,
but body and dex are the attributes that give you the 9 and the 6. Athletics is the skill.
No. Athletics is a body dex skill.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you start with is by figuring out your quote body dex attribute. Okay. So we have to get our 7, which then up here, our 7.
I think you're overcomplicating it again, though.
No, I'm not. So we do our body dex to figure out that we've got a 7, and then our base skill roll target is 8.
Mm-hmm.
So anything body dex, not just athletics, base target is 8.
Right.
I now put 2 skill levels into athletics.
Mm-hmm.
So now my athletics roll base target is 6.
Yeah.
Because my body dex attribute is the way my brain's
body
describing
dex
it.
doesn't change at all. Only athletics changes.
Right. Okay. I think we're talking past each other.
I mean, hey, if somebody understands it your way, then we win. If somebody understands it my way, then we win. Either way, we're getting to the same number. So
exactly. So, all right.
I mean, I do in Dungeons and Dragons, I do Thaco backwards. So, but it works for me. That's why I have an entire video on that. What is it, Malachi? You can say it. All right, let's move on. But we want to talk. Did we talk about? No, we didn't finish up. Let me finish up the purchasing skill levels here.
Skill levels
that's right. I was talking about Jeff Conroy again. What a name. So skill levels in any of the 5 we already did that. Players must remember. Yeah. Okay. So skill level costs. Here we go. The skill level cost table shows the CP cost for purchasing skill levels. CP costs for each skill level of expertise are cumulative. Thus, to purchase a skill level 4 costs 20 points. Level 1 plus 10, plus 20, plus 80. So a total of 80 character points. So if you want to just start off, I just want to be at 4 immediately. Forget 1, 2, and 3. It's going to cost you 80 points. I always hated this cumulative point cost, what do you want to call it? Column. I always hated it. Because if I have a 2, I know, and I want to go to 4, I'm going to be spending 20 and 30, right? So that's 50 points. That's not also what it says in the cumulative. Cumulative only counts if you start at 0 or start at 1.
Well, but also it's even more confusing because skill level 1 costs 20 points. Skill level 2 costs 10.
Yeah, again, a lot of games back then, I think even some now, but a lot of games back then did that. The initial cost to learn something, the training, the time it takes to do that, costs a little more. And then, your first look, man, when you first learn how to do something, it takes you a while to learn it. But once you learn it, you quickly upgrade, through the facility, the facile stuff. Yeah, the easy stuff. But then things start becoming harder, or you need more practice, more HAT, and so forth.
Right.
So I, again, don't have a problem with that. But I get what you're saying, where it's like, wait a minute, it goes from 20 to 10. Get rid of this cumulative cost chart table, people in modern game design, because if I already have a 4 and I want to go to a 5, okay, that's an easy jump. That just says, but if it's a 6 after those, so 50 plus 80.
Well, okay, no, actually, I think actually this skill level cost table is actually good for creating a character, because okay, brand new character. How many points do
fair.
I have? Okay,
fair.
I want level 3, boom, 50 points. But then when I'm coming back to improve my character, it's like, level 4, I just need to spend another 30 points.
Yeah, again, I know I'm hyper pedantic about things where it's like going from 4 to 6, whatever. But look at how many points that is. That's crazy amount of points anyway. So, yeah, but you're right. When we're in character creation, not character advancement, even though we'd come back to this for that. So for that purpose, I think you're right. So, all right, I'll finish this area up here.
Okay.
0 cost skills. In this game, all character classes automatically receive certain minimum levels of training at 0 cost. Alrighty. For a Mechwarrior, these are Gunnery Mech and Piloting Mech 1. Awesome, so I don't have to spend those. I can be a green gunner and a green pilot right out of the gate. See other character types for minimum skill levels for other character classes. Skill purchase limitations. A character's learn score imposes 2 important limitations on his skills. First, the number of skill areas he may have is equal to his learn score. So, skill areas, and we will get into that in the next section. But your skill areas are affected by this. For example, Mechwarrior Jeff Conroy has a learn of 7, and so he may obtain skills in up to a total of 7 skill areas. Second, the total number of skills a character may buy is equal to his learn times 4. For example, Mechwarrior Conroy can purchase a total of 28 skill levels. Notice it doesn't say 28 skills. It says 28 skill levels. So that includes your improvements.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, it's to
really
it's to prevent characters from being experts. Yeah, after a long enough time, I know literally every skill in the game. Like, no.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, no,
Seems like you have thoughts on that.
No, no, you kind of make a point there that yeah, they are going to limit you. So it's like, no, you can't learn everything in the game. I think it's really limited. Like, so he has a learning of 7, so you can only learn 7 skills, which
No. 7 skill areas.
no, but that essentially that's skills. Skill area: athletics, bow, blade, brawling, computer, diplomacy, driver, engineering.
Oh, I thought they were more like categories. I guess they're not. Nope, I guess they're not.
Yeah, so essentially you can like so good old Jeff Conroy can only learn 7 skills. Now, I kind of get that because I mean you can hand wave like a lot of stuff. Like okay, so like driver. Okay, maybe you could say okay, everybody can drive a car, but you have to have the driver skill if you're doing a high-speed chase trying to,
Or a tank or a hover vehicle or something,
right, exactly.
Yeah, and you know what? So I will tell you right now, they need to get rid of that word areas. They should just be called skills.
I mean, let's be honest, they probably did get rid of it. This is first edition.
Yeah,
But yeah, exactly. Skill areas definitely implies, okay, there's going to be athletics, and here are the 8 skills
right.
underneath.
And I've been way too involved with Palladium recently. So when I see skill area, I think of like, their communication skills, and there's like 10 skills underneath there, and their physical skills, and there's like, so that's where my mind immediately went. See that a skill area is just a skill. Now, I bet you these are broad. Like when we get into looking at, I don't know how many skills you actually want to cover, if you want to cover all 25 of them. But when we look at them, I bet you they do have broad use, though.
Yeah. So, anyways, again, it still seems kind of limited, but I do think that, that quote unquote long term, it's not an issue. I mean, you're going to be dealing like look at like the old BattleTech cartoon or a regular TV show. Their skill areas really don't change a whole lot, throughout a series. Maybe they're better at the things they can already do, but they're not adding a bunch of different stuff. So,
but also remember, the game already suggested you play 2, 3, 4 characters.
Right. So you can absolutely cover everything you need. So yeah, skill areas.
It's just a bad term.
Yeah, bad term, but here's the list. This is everything you can do. Looks great. All right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think. How detailed should we go on the skill?
What we normally do, I don't know how you like to do it, but on our show, what we normally do is we pick 2 or 3 skills. He'll pick 1 or 2, I'll pick 1 or 2, and then we just kind of look over. This is how they're generically written. If you want to know more, buy the book. I personally, if we're going to do this, either way, I would like to look. There are a couple of skills I would like to look at. Land management being one of them, because that you don't think land management when you think MechWarrior. So what the heck is that? Okay. And then maybe something like computer, because that seems to be pretty broad. But again, it's your show. I don't want to take over.
No. I think that's fine. Yeah. So computer, land management. Then let's say driver. I'll pick driver. And then we'll look at piloting aerospace and piloting mech.
Yeah, I like. I'm glad you picked one that had the double attribute, double ruling attributes.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, you said computer, so let's look at computer.
Okay.
If I can find it.
Yeah, they're not in alphabetical order.
Oh my gosh. No, it's even worse because it's organized by
body
skills, dex skills.
Hold on, is it in the order that it gives above? Nope, because that's computers under learn. Okay, computers under learn.
But here's skill technician. So technician in mechanical jump ship pilot.
Yeah, where is it? There it is. Found it. It's on page 13 in the second column.
This is such a mess.
That's awesome. Well, you know what? Not everything that's old is good, right? You want me to take this one since I picked it, or you want to? Okay.
Yeah, computers.
Computer. This is under the learn, as he's showing you there. Computer
it's
skill
somewhere under it.
Yeah, somewhere. It just keep scrolling until you find it. Who cares about the alphabet? Computer skill gives a character the potential to operate the remaining computer resources scattered throughout the Battletech universe. Characters attempting to access a security-guarded computer system or program must compare their computer skill rating against the security rating of the computer or program being accessed in order to successfully use the program. That is a very 1970s way of writing all that. I love it.
Yeah.
I just got some serious flashbacks on that one to junior high, but yeah. So basically, you make a computer roll to do anything computer oriented. Now remember, a lot of times in the old school era, they didn't tell you this because war gamers and especially a game like BattleTech, which is somewhat of a war game, already knew this. You don't roll for tying your shoes. You don't roll for turning the computer on. You roll when the outcome of the roll is uncertain. You don't know if you might succeed or fail, and if that outcome is meaningful. Does it actually matter if you succeed or fail? Don't have somebody roll computer to turn on to do something rudimentary like nowadays do a Google search. Even your grandma knows how to do a Google search.
Do I need to roll in order to drive down to the grocery store?
You do. I've been in a car with you.
That's fair.
No. Obviously,
hold on. I would like to point out I made X roll.
that is, yeah, he made the roll, but he still had to roll. No, no, for things like that, no. Now, would you have to do that if all of a sudden some aerospace fighter's doing a strafing run on the highway that you're driving on? Probably.
No, well, right, exactly. But again, it's shoes. It's driving to the grocery store, making a phone call. You don't need to make the communications test,
Now, if you're trying to freak that phone call or spoof it, whatever, and have them think it's somebody else that's calling,
that's a whole separate issue.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about driving.
Ooh, all right. Where's that?
Driver. That's page 12.
Oh, it's going back up. Okay.
Yeah, it's a deck space skill. So you have to go up to that section.
Got it.
Driver skill improves a character's ability to maneuver any type of conventional land-based vehicle of this era, including wheeled vehicles, tracked vehicles, example tanks, ground effect vehicles, and hovercraft. Okay, this I kind of disagree with.
Huh.
Let's be honest, driving a car, a tank, a hovercraft, and a ground effect vehicle are not the same things.
Right. Well, here's what I find interesting about this. I may be misremembering. I know that ground effect vehicles are a big thing in BattleTech now. I don't remember any ground effect vehicles in the 3025 era.
I think it's just another way of them saying hovercraft, but like a hover car.
Nerd's right. She's so right. Oh, she's played too many computer games.
In BattleTech, all vehicles use a joystick. That's fair. Well, no, and as I was saying it, it's like, okay, like half tracks. Like, you know why half tracks exist? Okay, because, or at least from the U.S. Army, I remember reading this some point when I was playing Flames of War. Half tracks basically existed because people knew how to drive cars. They didn't necessarily know how to drive a tank or some sort of a tracked vehicle, but they could put them in a half track, get the same benefits of a tracked vehicle, but it would drive like a car.
They couldn't figure out that moving the sticks that way turns you that way, moving the sticks that way makes you turn that way, but okay.
I mean, look, plenty of people, just don't learn things, but
fair enough.
Regardless, I would still say that, Okay, maybe this is
But let's be honest. There are only 25 skills in the game. Everything. You could argue that with the computer. Well, is that building a computer? Is that programming a computer? Is that operating a computer? Is that, I mean,
no, you're right, but I'm just saying these are very different vehicles that I would at least split it into like civilian and military, maybe something like that. But anyways, that's just me. All right. Each level of driver skill decreases the target number by 1 whenever a character is required to make a piloting skill roll for one of these vehicles. For each 3 levels of driver skill, a character obtains 1 level of repair skill in fixing vehicles of these types. Add to the... Wait a second. Each level of driver skill decreases the target number. Oh, okay. No, okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so each level of driver skill decreases the target number by 1 whenever a character is required to make a piloting skill roll for one of these vehicles.
yeah. So in old BattleTech terms, it reduces your piloting skill by 1.
No. Is that saying one of these types of vehicles? Or if you are making a piloting skill roll, you reduce it by 1.
I'm good with that verbiage there and trying to remember 40 years ago when I was a teenager, like how I filled out character sheets. I do want to say that it was driving. I want to say that we'll see some characters in here later at some point, so there should be an example. But I want to say that you do actually pick hover. I'm gonna cheat and look it up right now.
All right, you check that. I'll just keep reading. Because that's the thing. For each 3 levels of driver skill, a character obtains 1 level of repair skill in fixing vehicles of these types. Because that also implies that you're going to get a repair skill for. That's like super broad. Add to the character's basic mechanical skill rating for this purpose only. This repair skill does not count toward the learned skill limit. Characters with a driver skill level of 4+ can travel safely at rates 25% faster than those normally listed. Also, characters with driver skill level 6+ can travel safely at rates of up to 50% faster than normal.
Guess what this book doesn't have?
Sample characters.
I would say just off the cuff. Yeah, you've got to. Well, okay. Well, hold on. This game is just over glorified BattleTech, right?
Right.
BattleTech, it's just a piloting skill roll. There isn't all this other stuff. Or let's go tanks. Let's go City Tech. There's just the driver roll. There is no hover.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is it assumes that you are trained in the vehicle that you are driving.
Sure, but if you took a tank crew, is there any rule in BattleTech that you know of, and now maybe it was added later, but that you know of, that says, hey, if you go from a Savannah Master to an Ontos heavy tank, that the character all of a sudden can't drive it?
No, because remember, again, you're not swapping those characters around.
Yes, yes, you could. You absolutely made crews in City Tech.
I don't remember that.
Just like you made Mechwarriors in BattleTech, where every 4 kills you drop your gunnery, every 3 kills you drop your pilot, or something like that.
Look,
I forget what it is.
I don't want to bring up those memories because that was the guy that taught me how to play BattleTech, and he's like, "Oh, I've been playing forever, so I have all these kills, so I get to use clan equipment, and you have inner sphere, and we're gonna play by tonnage."
Well, here's what I'll say: as a person in a role playing game, I would actually if I was the game master and I would do this during session 0 and I'd say, tell me which type you want to drive. I would personally do that. Now you could make an argument, tracked and wheeled really isn't that much different. Well, you know what? It kind of is because, it's not just about the sticks turning you. It's also about the type of terrain you're driving through and where you get stuck and where you don't get stuck, and so forth. Hover, they glide. They like to glide around. I personally would say yes. I'm trying to be rules as written as we cover this, and I don't know. But it is kind of, you could say it's clear enough. Where did you read that? Whenever a character is required to make a piloting skill for well, no, it just says for one of these vehicles. So basically it's saying, hey, whenever you have to make a piloting skill roll for one of these vehicles.
You could literally read it either direction.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to say that my guess is that, not that I'm wrong, but I'm house ruling this in the wrong way. That no, the game's intent was you can drive anything because we don't want to have 75,000 skills in the game. That's my guess.
right. Okay. Land management, page 13,
Oh.
lower left corner.
I have to do something now.
You picked the skill.
Lower left corner.
Yep.
Thank you, because I went to the lower right. Skill in land management will be useful to player characters who purchase or are awarded feudal land grants, as it will help them achieve steady income from those lands. Each level of land management skill increases the quarterly land administration and income roll target by 1. What does all that mean? Who the hell knows? But I'm sure we'll come across it later on in the book. So let's remember. But here's why I wanted to mention that. A lot of people remember that we discussed in the history of this. The games turn feudal. Land management is a thing, and having that kind of potential income could be good for your company or your lance. It could also be a burden.
Well, but another way to think about it, it's the domain play.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know, we've already talked about troop play. Now it's domain play, because keep in mind this is 1984.
Yeah.
So we're literally, D&D is only about 10 years old at this time.
Stop putting your mech footprints across my land. Stupid kids cutting through my yard. They're dumb grasshoppers.
All right, let's look at the piloting real quick. That is page 14 on the right-hand side. All right. Piloting mech. As described in the Battletech rules, this skill enables characters to improve their chances of making complex maneuvers in a mech or of remaining upright in situations where there is danger of falling. Each level of piloting mech skill lowers the skill roll target by 1. The game master's discretion, characters with a piloting skill level of 5+ may also attempt maneuvers not normally permitted by the Battletech rules, with modifiers to the piloting skill roll target as determined by the game master. Ooh.
We added in something called jump kicks. Do you remember that original Battletech? They didn't call it death from above. They called it jump kicking.
No, I did not know that.
That might have been a novel thing. I can't remember. But so we actually added in jump kicks where you made a typical kick roll. You had to have jump jets, and you made a typical kick roll, but you rolled on the punch chart instead of the leg chart, and it gave you that 1 in 6 chance of kicking somebody in the head.
Nice. Yeah, see, I was going to say, this kind of sounds like they're giving you like anime mecha rules as opposed to, Battletech mecha rules. I mean, that's how I would interpret it.
Sure.
Like you said, like jump kickings, things like that. And then piloting aerospace skill improves a character's ability to maneuver any kind of non-jump capable spacecraft, including dropships and aerospace fighters. Each level of skill also gives a character the equivalent of 1 skill level in flying conventional aircraft. Dropship pilots should have a skill level of at least 5.
See,
that's expensive.
That's, again, I know some arguments can be made for this. That's where I'm probably with you on this one, where I'm like, flying an aerospace fighter is not the same as, flying a Shaloni is not going to be the same as flying a Leopard class dropship, even if they're both aerodynamic, right? And then now let's turn it into the spheroids, an Overlord class. That, I'm sorry, but your ability to fly that biplane is not going to help you like steer that ball with engines on the bottom of, but I think the game does that intentionally because it doesn't want to have 75,000 skills.
Right. Exactly. So, okay. So, folks, we are actually going to stop here. I think we've gotten a good base.
Only 2 pages left.
2.
No, we're 3 technically, but no, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, no. They because I'm going to want to talk about more of this stuff. I mean, maybe not necessarily like.
Well, skill packages are important, so yes, I agree with you.
Yeah. So, but let's just say that I am being given signals by the wife that that this is a good stopping point.
Then it's a great stopping point. Thank you, honey.
Right. Exactly. So, and I gotta say, some of this 1980s art is just amazing.
I love it.
I mean, it's not bad. Like this one's great. I love this one.
Uh-huh.
You know, this one, that is a lot of hair.
Yes, it is. And she's Cretan.
Yes, but that I don't care what you're doing. You know, you're in a military unit. That's a lot of hair.
Well, she's got a wrench. I hope she ties that up before she gets close to any sort of servos or mimers or anything.
Yes, exactly. Anyways, but we're going to discuss her next time. So, all right, this was great. This ended up, yeah. It's fun seeing this kind of time capsule.
Yes.
You know, even though I didn't get to play it back in the day, you did. But regardless,
I'll be 100% honest. I don't remember if I played or just made a ton of characters and we talked about it. This is one of those that I think we played. I know we talked because we all had the Mechwarrior book. I just don't remember if we really did. Or if we just all ended up playing Battletech. I know we even made some characters for this and just played Battletech with them. But dude, it's been so long. It's like that's again 40 years. I played this back in 80. I was 14. So that'd be 87.
I was 11 and had no friends, but but again, it is one of those things where, like, reading through this, I'd kind of like to play a campaign, even if it's just a short one. I'd kind of like to play, you know, just the classics there. So, anyways, so next time we're gonna finish up, finish up creating your Mechwarrior characters, looking at additional character types. So make sure you come back for that. That'll be next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Any final thoughts before we go, Max?
No, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad we looked through this. I figured it was going to be fun anyway because you know how to make streams fun, and you know when we get together, you know we can talk, which is a good. It needs a new co-host. There we go. I'll wear the other Capellan hat next week. But no, this is a great time. And yeah, same thing that you said, looking over this, I remembered, believe it or not, I remembered more than I thought I would, but of course not 100%, you know, but it is what it is. And if you don't mind that, I just want to let people know about Sunday, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So this Sunday, Heathen Dog is going to continue. This is on over in Legion Myth channel. Heathen Dog is going to continue with AD&D 2nd edition. Starting combat. So it's going to be about another year and a half before we get through that book because he's just touching on the combat section now. And I am going to be covering, because we're supposed to do one a month and we've had other things that we've been looking at, I'll be covering the Rifter number 20 something or another. It's the next Rifter in the line. So look at what the last one was and it'll be the next one after that one. And we'll see what it's like Dragon Magazine or Dungeon Magazine for the Palladium universe. So thank you, Brian, for letting me join you for this. This has been actually a great time. I can't wait for next week. And yeah,
absolutely. No, I completely agree. A lot of fun. I absolutely, everybody, please go, if you're not already in our circles, absolutely go check out Legion of Myth. They do a great show on Sunday afternoon. I'm usually watching if I'm not asleep. But
if we don't bore the crap out
of no, you don't bore the crap out of me. I just work too much. But I don't get my regular overtime anymore, so I'll probably be there and awake the whole time.
Oh, nice.
But also, last thing, folks, I did drop in the chat. I'll also have it probably linked in the description later. I do have a second channel that I have started up where I read Wikipedia pages. Basically, think of it as sort of your interesting fact of the day, something you can just turn on in the background. Go check that out. It's not growing as fast as I would like, but we'll get there. But check it out. We do some fun Battletech stuff there as well. I have covered the major houses, and I'm starting to get into the clans. Yes, the clans exist, Max. But one of the key factors is I want people commenting on the videos, letting me know what they'd like to hear. One example, I also have been covering the 40K Primarchs, and somebody put in a comment, I would like to hear about this particular chapter. So I did it.
Nice.
That's actually coming out this Sunday.
He actually listens to you, unlike us.
Right, exactly. So you as the viewer get to help shape a lot of what it's doing. Right now, I'm just doing what I want because not enough people are commenting. But go comment. Tell me what you'd like to see, and we'll get there. So, anyways, with that said, we're going to sign off. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Hit that like button on the way out. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. And otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.